Hey guys, tonight we are stepping into the polished, perfumed, appointment-filled world of rich women in the 1960s, where a day could begin in a quiet bedroom with silk curtains, a silver hairbrush, a telephone beside the bed, and the strange problem of having plenty of time while still being expected to use every minute beautifully. On the surface, it looks easy. There are lawns other people mow, kitchens other people help clean, closets full of good fabric, department store accounts, club lunches, beauty appointments, charity committees, vacation plans, and living rooms arranged so carefully that even the sofa seems to understand family reputation. And yes, in many ways, this was comfort. Money could buy space, privacy, help, travel, better food, better doctors, and the deep household peace of not personally arguing with a broken vacuum cleaner unless society had truly collapsed. But wealth did not remove pressure, it simply gave pressure nicer shoes. For many affluent women, especially in American suburbs, cities, resorts, and social circles of the 1960s, the day was not empty, it was managed. It was watched. It was filled with grooming, hosting, shopping, volunteering, decorating, child-rearing, polite conversation, careful spending, and the quiet task of making privilege look effortless. Of course, this world did not look the same for everyone. Money, race, region, religion, age, marriage, family background, and local customs shaped what a woman could do, where she was welcomed, and how free she actually felt. An old money widow in New York, a corporate wife in Dallas, a Hollywood hostess in Beverly Hills, and a newly comfortable suburban mother with a part-time cleaning woman were not living the same day. But many met the same demand: be elegant, useful, attractive, generous, modern, controlled, and never too obvious about the work behind seeming untroubled. Tonight, we are going to move gently through that world. We will hear the telephone ring before breakfast, open the closet, sit beneath the salon dryer, pass through the department store, take lunch under polite inspection, watch the country club enforce belonging with excellent napkins, listen to a charity committee become a small government, and stand in a living room where a decorator is treating curtain fabric with the gravity of foreign policy. If you enjoy these quiet journeys into the strange corners of history where a woman can own a cocktail ring, a charge account, 3 shades of lipstick, and still be judged by the emotional firmness of a canapé, please like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely want to, no pressure. The hostess has already assigned enough of that to the seating chart. And leave a comment telling me where you are listening from and what time it is there, because somewhere it is 2 a.m, somewhere else someone is trying to sleep beside a glowing phone, and somewhere in 1960s America, a woman with perfect hair is pretending not to notice that the gelatin salad has lost confidence. The channel is also on Spotify, so if you prefer drifting off while a calm stranger explains bridge clubs, beauty salons, decorator lamps, resort wear, thank you notes, tennis whites, cocktail trays, and the emotional life of a very expensive chair nobody is meant to sit in casually. The link is in the description. Now dim the lights, put a fan on if you have one, pull the blanket up, turn the pillow to the cool side, and get truly comfortable. Because tonight, you are going to wake up in the 1960s with money in the bank, a house that photographs well, children expected to look wholesome in public, a husband whose career has somehow become part of your social calendar, and a day full of choices that are not quite as free as they first appear. What do you do when your calendar is full but none of it is called work? How do you spend money without looking vulgar, dress well without looking desperate, host beautifully without looking as if you tried, and stay interesting at lunch when everyone has already discussed the school fundraiser, the tennis pro, the new kitchen, and whether Mrs. Something has been wearing rather ambitious eyeliner? How do you keep a house that other people help clean while everyone still credits you for its perfection? Could you survive fittings, phone calls, charity minutes, polite rivalry, diet plates, club rules, cocktail talk, and the terrible moment when someone says, "We must get together soon," while both of you understand that this is not a plan, but a social foghorn? Congratulations. You have just woken up as a rich woman in 1960s America. Your hair is expected to behave, your calendar is already suspiciously full, and somewhere downstairs, a silver coffee pot is waiting to be admired for doing what a kettle could have done with less ceremony. Morning begins in a bedroom arranged to suggest peace, money, and the careful absence of dust. The curtains are heavy, the carpet is soft, the telephone waits beside the bed, and the dressing table holds creams, brushes, powders, perfume, and small silver tools that imply beauty has already formed a committee. You have not yet stood up, but the day is waiting for you to look rested, composed, and faintly pleased with everything. Outside the window, the lawn may already be handled by someone else. Inside, your first job is to appear as if no job has begun. The room itself has been trained in quiet. There is no loose laundry over the chair, no child's sock hiding under the bed, no stack of bills lying where daylight might grow judgmental. If such things exist, they have been moved elsewhere, which is one of the small miracles money can perform. The air smells faintly of face cream, pressed linen, flowers from yesterday, and the dry, powdery scent of a room cleaned before anyone complained. You lie still for a moment and listen. Somewhere below, a door closes softly. A cup touches a saucer. A vacuum may begin its low morning growl in another room. Perhaps a gardener's machine starts outside, sending the smell of cut grass through the window screen. The house is awake, but it is careful not to wake too loudly. Wealth often speaks in reduced noise. The bed is good, of course. The sheets are smooth, the pillows generous, and the blanket has not entered into any serious disagreement with your feet. This is comfort, real comfort, and it would be dishonest to pretend otherwise. A woman in a cold apartment, a crowded boarding house, a farm kitchen, or a factory room would not mistake this life for hardship, but comfort has its own instructions. You cannot simply wake with your hair flattened, your face bare, and your mood wandering loose through the room, not if the maid may appear with coffee. Not if your husband might stop at the doorway before leaving for the office. Not if children, friends, neighbours, delivery men, club callers, or the phone are waiting to turn you back into a public woman before noon. The wealthy bedroom is private, but only in the manner of a stage before the curtain rises. It is where the costume begins. In the 1960s, many affluent women were expected to manage a polished image of wifehood, motherhood, beauty, and ease. Post-war money, suburbs, appliances, credit, magazines, and television changed the language of modern living. Yet for women whose husbands' careers, families, or social standing depended partly on appearance, the old duties did not vanish. They became smoother. The house might have a dishwasher. The wife still had to make the home look like a place someone deserved to own. The children might have school buses and orthodontists. The mother still had to keep them presentable. The family might have investments. The wife still had to know which dress suited a morning charity meeting and which tone of voice meant a friend was not asking but requiring. You sit up slowly. The dressing table waits with its little army of jars and bottles, cold cream, moisturizer, powder, lipstick, perfume, hairbrush, comb, pins. The labels may be elegant, though not all promises inside them are equally scientific. A beauty advertisement from the period could suggest that youth, marriage, confidence, and the approval of strangers were all somehow related to the correct cream, applied with upward strokes. This was a large responsibility for a jar, but many jars accepted it bravely. You may reach for a robe, perhaps quilted or silk, or a neat housecoat if the morning is meant to look informal in a formal way. The distinction matters. In a rich household, even not being dressed can have a dress code. The telephone remains beside the bed like a polite threat. It may ring before you have properly joined the day. A friend could call, your husband could call from the office, the school could call, the club could call. A committee chairwoman could call in a voice suggesting that a flower arrangement has become a civic emergency. You look toward it and feel that your quiet room is connected by wires to the whole machinery of your life. Outside, someone else trims the lawn. Inside, you begin trimming yourself. The face must be refreshed, the hair must be coaxed, the expression must be made ready for people who will say good morning and expect the answer to sound simple. You are not washing floors at dawn or hauling coal or packing lunch pails for a factory shift. That matters. But you are also not free in the wild, careless sense. The day has a shape, and your body is expected to fit it. The mirror receives you kindly enough, which is not the same as mercy. It shows sleep at the eyes, pillow marks at the cheek, and the small truth that even rich women wake up as humans first. Then the creams begin their quiet work. The silver brush lifts. The powder opens. Somewhere downstairs, coffee is being poured into a pot that will look more important than the liquid requires. You take a breath, smooth the robe, and prepare to appear relaxed. The day has not asked you to labor yet. It has merely asked you to look as though labor has never heard your name. Downstairs, you hear the practical sounds of another woman keeping the house from telling the truth about itself. She may be a maid, a housekeeper, a cleaning woman, or someone who comes in several days a week, depending on the household, the city, and the money. She knows which cupboard holds the good napkins, which child left a sweater in the wrong room, whether the silver needs attention, and which drawer contains the object you are about to pretend you could have found unaided. Wealth gives you help. Help also gives the house a witness. You come down the stairs in a robe or a neat morning dress, and the house has already been moving without you. The kitchen may smell of coffee, toast, floor polish, and the dampness of a cloth used often. A mop leans in a corner. A cupboard door closes. Somewhere, water runs into a sink with the steady sound of responsibility being handled by someone whose name may be spoken many times a day and rarely written anywhere important. In an affluent 1960s household, paid domestic help could take many forms. Some families had a live-in maid or housekeeper, especially among the very wealthy. Others had a woman who came in by the day, cleaned, ironed, cooked, minded children, answered the door, or did whatever the rooms quietly required. The arrangement depended on money, place, race, custom, and the size of the home. In many American cities and suburbs, domestic work was often done by working-class women, and in many regions by black women or women from immigrant families, whose labor made comfort possible while giving them little of that comfort for themselves. The house may look effortless because someone has been making effort disappear. This is the part glossy magazines preferred to photograph only after it was finished. She may know the house in a way you do not. She knows which child complains before breakfast and which one feeds toast to the dog. She knows that the nice linen tablecloth has a faint stain hidden toward one edge. She knows whether the roast was too dry last Thursday, and which drawer contains the small objects that hold civilization together until guests arrive. Her knowledge is intimate, but her position is not equal. That is the uneasy arrangement. She may see your mornings, your mess, your worries, your unopened letters, your children's tempers, and the place where your perfect household creaks. Yet she must often move through that knowledge with care. Too much notice can be impertinent. Too little can be incompetent. There is no perfect amount of knowing in someone else's house. You may like her. You may depend on her. You may even say she is like family, which is one of those phrases that can be warm in the mouth and complicated in the pay envelope. Actual family usually has a stronger claim on holidays. Domestic workers could face long hours, low pay, uneven treatment, racial barriers, and the loneliness of working where labor was personal but status stayed marked. A kind employer mattered greatly. So did wages, time off, privacy, transport, and whether kindness survived the moment something broke. You watch her wipe the counter, and the motion is quick, practiced, and almost invisible because it has been done so many times. She may wear a simple uniform, or she may not. Some homes expected a uniform when guests were present, because even labor had to fit the room's idea of beauty. A white apron can turn cleaning into scenery if nobody thinks too hard. You thank her for the coffee, or perhaps you forget because the coffee has become part of the morning's landscape. That is another luxury, the way another person's work becomes background. Still, you are not simply idle in relation to her. You may manage her hours, decide what must be cleaned first, handle wages, correct mistakes, and maintain the polite balance of authority that keeps the household running without open awkwardness. This, too, is work, though not the same kind. It is emotional management dressed as household order. Most affluent households are not grand estates, but even a part-time cleaning woman changes the day. She frees you from scrubbing floors. She also means that the floor is still, somehow, your responsibility in public memory. Guests will praise your lovely home. They will not usually praise the woman who made the bathroom shine before they arrived. The house belongs to you, so its success belongs to you. Its work may belong to someone else. That is the neat little trick hiding in the polished banister. You pass through the kitchen, asking about laundry or dinner, lowering your voice because class differences can make sentences feel staged. She answers practically. She has work to do. The day does not wait for social theory. A towel must be folded, a bed made, a stain treated, a child reminded about shoes. You may feel gratitude, dependence, guilt, irritation, affection, and embarrassment in the same morning, because people are rarely tidy enough for their own arrangements. She picks up the broom. You pick up the day's social calendar. Both of you are working, but only one of you is expected to make work vanish completely. By the time guests admire the house, the evidence will be gone. That is the point. The room will shine, the napkins will lie straight, the cups will match, and the woman who knew where everything actually was may already be on the bus home. At breakfast, the china may be delicate, the coffee may be good, and the table may look ready for a magazine photograph. Your plate, however, remains cautious. There may be grapefruit, toast, melon, coffee, a boiled egg, or a small portion of cottage cheese placed before you with quiet authority. A rich kitchen can hold abundance while your own breakfast arrives as a polite warning. In the 1960s, women's magazines, doctors, friends, dress sizes, and mirrors all had opinions about appetite. The plate does not shout. It simply suggests that pleasure should perhaps check in later. The kitchen itself may be a bright, modern wonder, with enamel surfaces, chrome, a good refrigerator, an electric mixer, neat cabinets, and drawers full of utensils designed to make domestic life feel efficient. There may be bacon available, eggs in the carton, jam in the cupboard, butter in the dish, pastry from a good bakery, cereal for the children, and perhaps enough coffee to make civilization seem possible. Yet your own morning meal has been edited. It is not poverty, it is discipline, served on porcelain. You sit at the table and lift the coffee cup. The coffee is hot, dark, and honest in a way the grapefruit cannot always manage. A half grapefruit in the 1960s has a certain emotional confidence. It arrives cut, chilled, and arranged like a cheerful punishment, sometimes with a maraschino cherry placed in the center, as if the fruit has been given a small hat to distract from its intentions. Diet culture in the period was not limited to rich women, of course, but wealth could give it special polish. There were slimming salons, doctor visits, tailored clothes, club dressing rooms, resort swimsuits, bathroom scales, and friends who could notice 2 pounds from across a luncheon table while pretending to admire your bracelet. Fashion was shifting toward younger, slimmer shapes, especially as the decade moved on. The narrow suit, the sheath dress, the capri pants, the swimsuit, and later the shorter skirt all asked the body to behave in public. Rich women had access to better food, but they also had more occasions to be judged while wearing expensive fabric. That is one of comfort's less generous jokes. The cook, maid, or household help may have prepared breakfast for the family. Children may receive cereal, eggs, toast, juice, or something sweet enough to make their teeth think about the future. Your husband may eat with the plain appetite of a man whose body has not been made a group project by women's magazines. He may take bacon. He may butter toast without appearing to consult 3 social codes. He may read the newspaper while eating, which gives him a useful place to put his face. You, meanwhile, may cut into melon and remember that a woman's appetite has long been expected to show manners. It should be present enough to suggest health, absent enough to suggest control, and never so hearty that anyone imagines the dress is in danger. The table sounds are gentle. Knife on china, spoon in cup, newspaper turning, a child asking for something, the refrigerator closing in the distance. Morning light falls across the polished surface, and everything looks calm, but the plate is quietly negotiating with the body. You may genuinely prefer a light breakfast. Many people do. You may have eaten heavily the night before. You may be following a doctor's advice. You may simply have no wish to begin the day with sausage, eggs, and moral confusion. The point is not that every rich woman was secretly hungry at breakfast. The point is that the culture around affluent womanhood made eating visible, even when the meal was small. A woman could host dinner, order desserts for guests, keep a full pantry, arrange attractive meals, and still be expected to show restraint when her own plate arrived. That is a lot of responsibility for toast, You spread a small amount of butter, perhaps carefully enough that the knife seems to be doing arithmetic. A diet article might recommend protein, grapefruit, black coffee, or avoiding bread entirely. Another might warn about calories with the firm tone of a school principal addressing pudding. Some women followed strict plans. Some ignored them. Some smoked instead of eating more, which the period often treated with far less alarm than it deserved. Some relied on pills, diet drinks, reducing candies, or whatever new promise appeared in a magazine with a smiling woman on the cover. In a wealthy house, these ideas could sit right beside abundance. That is the strange picture: silver coffee pot, full refrigerator, fresh fruit, crisp napkins, and a woman privately deciding whether one more piece of toast will become a public matter by afternoon. You look at the plate again. It is not cruel. It is not generous. It is a small ceremony of self-control. The grapefruit shines. The coffee steams. The toast cools at the edge, waiting to learn whether it has been invited. Outside, the lawn is cut. Inside, the day has begun with the old bargain. Be well fed, but not noticeably hungry. The rich kitchen can offer almost anything. Your breakfast offers just enough to remind you that a woman may have plenty and still be asked to prove she can refuse it. In front of the wardrobe, you face the soft, expensive problem of being seen. There are day dresses, suits, shoes, gloves, hats, scarves, handbags, tennis clothes, cocktail dresses, evening gowns, and small boxes of accessories that seem to understand social rank better than some relatives. The question is not only what fits, it is where you are going, who might notice, whether the hem is current, whether the colour is tasteful, and whether looking as if you tried too hard would be worse than looking as if you had not tried enough. Fabric has entered the conversation before you have. The closet smells faintly of perfume, cedar, wool, dry cleaning, shoe leather, and the paper lining of good boxes. Hangers click softly against the rail. A row of shoes waits below, each pair ready for another version of you. Here are the neat low heels for errands that are not really errands. Here are the dressier heels for lunch. Here are the shoes for church, club, travel, dinner, and the event nobody wants to attend but everyone must dress for as if it were a privilege. In a less wealthy home, clothing may be chosen by need, weather, wear, and cleanliness. In your world, those questions still matter, but they are joined by a quieter and more dangerous one. What does this say? The 1960s made that question especially lively. Fashion was changing quickly. Early in the decade, many affluent American women still wore polished suits, sheath dresses, pearls, gloves, hats, and tidy heels. By the middle and later years, hemlines rose, colours sharpened, fabrics became bolder, and the pull of youth culture became harder to ignore. A woman with money could follow the change more easily, but that did not mean she could follow it simply. Too modern, and you might look foolish, vain, or over-influenced by a daughter, a boutique, or a magazine with questionable respect for knees. Too old-fashioned, and you risked seeming dull, heavy, behind, or trapped in a year everyone else had politely left. The wardrobe becomes social risk. You lift a dress. The fabric is good. Maybe wool jersey, silk, linen, cotton, a synthetic blend, or one of the newer easy care materials that promise freedom from ironing while quietly introducing the body to static. There is a zipper at the back because convenience has chosen a place your arms can barely reach. The lining slides cool against your hand. You hold it against yourself and look toward the mirror. The dress must fit the weather, the appointment, the room, and the story you want told before you speak. A charity committee demands tasteful seriousness, but not gloom. A department store visit asks for polish, but not full ceremony. A country club lunch requires ease with a small edge of money. A school meeting asks that you look maternal, sensible, and not like someone who spent the morning considering 3 pairs of gloves, even if history knows you did. There may still be hats for certain occasions, though their daily authority is beginning to fade in some circles. Gloves remain useful for church, formal calls, luncheons, travel, or any setting where the hands require social supervision. A handbag must match enough to show care, but not so perfectly that the whole arrangement looks purchased as a set by a frightened person. Jewelry must be visible, but not vulgar. Pearls are safe, which is why they have survived so many dangerous conversations. A brooch can suggest old family. A bright scarf can suggest modern taste. Too much gold can say unfortunate things at a volume no lady prefers. You reach for one outfit, then another. This is not mere vanity, though vanity is in the room, sitting in the chair. Clothes are a language. Rich women are expected to speak it fluently, without appearing to study. The mistake is not always wearing the wrong thing. Sometimes the mistake is making the right thing look difficult. That is why a closet full of clothes can feel less like plenty, and more like a private examination with better hangers. Your husband may own suits that shift only slightly from office to dinner. His tie may carry personality, if the office permits such emotional range. You, however, must move through the day like a well-dressed weather system. Morning, luncheon, committee, shopping, school, club, cocktails, dinner. Each place has a temperature. Each group has a code. Each code changes just enough to keep you alert. You may love clothes. Many women did and do. There is real pleasure in fine fabric, good tailoring, a color that flatters, a shoe that makes the step feel certain, a dress that turns a mirror from critic into ally. Pleasure matters, but pleasure sits beside surveillance. The same dress that delights you may be read by others for money, taste, age, effort, marriage, body, mood, and whether you have begun to worry too much about looking young. You choose at last. A trim-day dress, a suit, a blouse with a skirt, a scarf at the neck, earrings, stockings, shoes. You smooth the fabric and check the mirror. The room is quiet. The closet remains full, having offered help with the calm superiority of someone who caused the problem. You are dressed now, which should make the matter finished. Instead, the day has only received its first visual statement. Before you open your mouth, the hem has spoken, the handbag has added a footnote, and the shoes have suggested that you are coping beautifully. The telephone rings with the bright confidence of a machine that has never respected a quiet room. You lift the receiver, and the day enters through the cord. There is a luncheon reminder, a school question, a charity detail, a husband's message, a neighbor's curiosity, or a friend asking whether you are free while clearly meaning available. In a wealthy 1960s home, the telephone is not just a convenience. It is a social instrument, a household alarm bell, a gossip line, a scheduling device, and, on certain mornings, a small emotional ambush with a dial tone. The receiver is smooth against your hand, slightly warm if someone has just used it, cool if the morning has been waiting. The cord curls toward the wall like a little black leash. The kitchen may have another phone, mounted near the counter, where calls can be answered while coffee is poured and children are reminded about shoes. A bedroom extension is luxury. It means the world can find you before your face is finished. It means privacy, but only until someone else picks up another receiver and breathes with the guiltless volume of a family member. In many affluent homes, the phone helps run the invisible office of domestic life. Appointments, deliveries, school notices, club reservations, hair appointments, doctor visits, dinner invitations, thank you calls, committee changes, travel plans, and social repairs all pass through it. Your husband may have a secretary downtown, but the house has you. You're expected to know who is coming, who must be called back, which invitation requires warmth, and which must be accepted because refusal would create more work than attendance. The telephone book sits nearby, with names and numbers. An address book may hold the better truth with notes in your own handwriting. New baby. Avoid seating near Eleanor. Sends flowers. Husband difficult. These are not always written down, but a skilled hostess remembers. Memory is part of the machinery. You listen to a friend talk about lunch. The voice is cheerful, perhaps too cheerful, which usually means a request is approaching in good shoes. She asks if you could possibly help with the benefit table, or call 3 more women, or bring something, or speak to someone who has become upset about being placed too near the kitchen door. The word possibly does heavy labor. You say yes, or perhaps you say that you will try, which is the social version of placing the call on a small shelf and hoping it behaves. The call ends. Another may come. The phone does not need to ring constantly to change the room. It only needs to be possible. That possibility sits beside you while you drink coffee, choose gloves, correct a child, or check the calendar. It gives leisure a nervous edge. the line also carries gossip, and gossip in this world is not always cheap. It can be information, warning, bonding, entertainment, cruelty, defense, and social weather report. A woman may learn who is ill, who is separating, who hired a new maid, whose daughter is seeing a young man with uncertain prospects, who has joined which club, who has been left off which guest list, and who has redecorated in a way that will require kindness from stronger women. Gossip is often mocked because women use it. This is convenient for societies that prefer not to admit how much power travels through conversation. Still, conversation can wound. A careless sentence spoken into the receiver may arrive elsewhere before lunch, wearing a better hat. You learn to speak lightly, warmly, and without giving away too much. The call invites closeness and then keeps a record in other people's memories. It is both companion and risk. There is also the husband's call. He may ring from the office to say he will be late, to ask about guests, to mention that someone important is coming for dinner next week, or to request that you please call his mother because he is not. The call is brief. His day is work, officially. Yours is not, officially. Yet his work often arrives through your telephone and expects flowers, sheets, drinks, charm, and the correct wife beside him when needed. The receiver becomes a small bridge between paid ambition and unpaid performance. You may make calls yourself. You sit at a small desk or stand in the kitchen with a pencil in hand, crossing names from a list. The rotary dial turns under your finger and clicks back with patient little steps. Each number takes time. There is no silent message sent and forgotten. A call requires a voice, a tone, an entrance. You must sound pleased even when you are merely organized. You must ask how someone is and listen long enough to prove the question was not decorative. You must know when to end the call before politeness becomes captivity. This is a skill, and no one gives it a title. By late morning, the telephone has touched half the day. It has carried obligation, affection, gossip, errands, school, marriage, charity, and status through one corded instrument. You place the receiver back in its cradle and feel the brief hush after the click. The quiet is pleasant. It is also suspicious. Somewhere, someone may already be reaching for another phone. In a house full of help, money, rooms, and polished surfaces, the telephone makes sure you are still reachable. Leisure can sit beautifully in a chair, but when the phone rings, it is expected to answer. Under the salon dryer, warm air hums around your head like a small domestic aircraft preparing for takeoff. Around you, women sit with magazines, handbags, lacquered nails, careful ankles, and the patient look of people who know beauty often means waiting while machinery rearranges your head. The room smells of hairspray, setting lotion, shampoo, coffee, and cigarette smoke, held at a respectable distance from the curlers. Nobody calls this labor. That would spoil the mood. Still, your neck is stiff, your scalp is pinned, and the afternoon may depend on whether your hair agrees to remain architectural. The beauty salon is not quite public and not quite private. It is a room where women appear in unfinished form together, which gives it a special kind of honesty, though the honesty is protected by capes, towels, curlers, and the shared understanding that nobody here will speak too plainly about anybody else's roots. A stylist moves behind you with clips and combs, lifting sections of hair with quick, practiced hands. She knows the shape you usually prefer. She knows whether your hair holds a set, whether the crown needs teasing, whether your face wants height, softness, or the kind of smooth helmet that can survive lunch, wind, and a small marital disappointment. In the 1960s, hair mattered. A polished woman's hairstyle could signal age, class, taste, money, and how closely she was willing to follow fashion without alarming the older ladies at the club. Early in the decade, structured sets, bouffants, smooth flips, and carefully sprayed shapes were common among affluent women. Hair could be high, rounded, controlled, and held in place with products that gave the head a confidence nature had not personally offered. The salon helped create that confidence. It also took time. You arrived with an appointment, not a whim. Perhaps your hair was washed in a porcelain basin while you leaned back at an angle that made dignity negotiate with gravity. Perhaps setting lotion was worked through the hair. Rollers went in, pins followed. A net may be placed over everything, giving you the temporary appearance of someone storing a delicate dessert. Then comes the dryer, The chair is firm. The magazines are near. The heat gathers around the scalp. You are encouraged to wait. Waiting becomes part of refinement. A woman who can afford to sit under a dryer for an hour is not only buying beauty, she is buying time away from the house, from children, from chores she may not do directly but still manages, from a telephone that cannot quite reach her here unless someone at the desk calls your name. There is pleasure in it. The room is warm. Someone else is taking care of you. The stylist may remember your stories, your children's ages, your vacation plans, your husband's promotion, and whether the committee luncheon was a disaster disguised as chicken salad. Salons often became places of female conversation, advice, gossip, and small relief. Women could speak with more freedom here than at the dining table, though not complete freedom, because every room has ears, and these ears are under dryers. You listen to a woman nearby explain that she is not upset, only disappointed, which is one of the more dangerous phrases available in civilized society. Another woman turns a magazine page. The photographs show slim models, young faces, modern dresses, new cosmetics, and hair that seems to have been arranged by both science and obedience. The decade is changing outside the salon. Young women are wearing straighter hair, shorter skirts, bolder eyes, and styles that make the older bouffant look suddenly like furniture with opinions. You may admire the new look. You may distrust it. You may borrow a piece of it carefully, perhaps a little more height, a cleaner line, or a softer flip. A rich woman can afford the experiment, but she cannot always afford the social result. The wrong haircut can travel faster through friends than a weather report. The salon understands this better than any newspaper. It is where fashion is softened into something socially usable, where a frightening picture from a magazine becomes a version that can attend church, lunch, and dinner without causing elderly relatives to ask whether something has happened at home. The stylist checks the set. She lifts the dryer hood, and cooler air touches your face. Pins come out one by one. Hair is combed, teased, smoothed, sprayed, and shaped. The spray hangs in the air, sharp and sweet, settling on the room like a promise that nothing natural will be allowed to happen without supervision. Your head feels lighter and heavier at once. Lighter because the pins are gone, heavier because the style now carries the afternoon. You look into the mirror. There you are, restored to the version of yourself the world prefers. The salon has given you polish, but it has also taken time, patience, money, and a small portion of your neck's goodwill. You rise carefully, because fresh hair changes how the body moves. You pay, perhaps add a tip, perhaps schedule the next appointment before leaving. Outside, the air waits with its rude little breezes. Inside, your hair has achieved order. For the next several hours, it will be treated less like hair and more like a public building that has recently passed inspection. The department store doors open onto cool air, perfume, polished floors, glass counters, and the soft authority of women who know your size. A saleswoman may remember your taste, your account, your last purchase, and perhaps a recent disappointment in your coat choices. You move through cosmetics, gloves, dresses, linens, handbags, china, and gifts for women who already own enough but still require the correct gesture. Shopping can be pleasure. It can also be maintenance. A rich woman is not only buying things, she is buying signals, and the signals must not arrive looking too eager. The store is arranged to make desire feel civilized. Nothing is simply piled. It is displayed, lit, folded, placed behind glass, or held by a woman whose posture suggests the scarf has a future if treated correctly. The air smells of perfume, leather, new fabric, paper bags, and the coolness of air conditioning, which feels like status when the pavement outside is hot enough to make ordinary errands lose their manners. Department stores had long been places where middle-class and wealthy women could move in public with respectability. By the 1960s, the grand store still mattered, though suburban shopping centres and boutiques were beginning to change the map. For you, the store is not only a place to buy, it is a place to be recognized. Recognition is one of money's quieter pleasures. A clerk greets you by name, or at least by the careful almost name that means she knows your family account and is not going to risk guessing wrong. Your charge account gives the transaction a special smoothness. Cash does not need to appear. The purchase can glide into the family records like a polite swan, leaving the discussion of money for later. This can feel freeing. It can also make buying seem less real until the bill arrives with a memory better than yours. You stop at the glove counter. Gloves may not rule the decade as firmly as they once did, but they still appear for church, luncheons, travel, formal visits, and occasions where bare hands might seem to have entered too casually. A pair is unfolded. The leather is soft. The colour must work with more than one outfit, unless you are feeling brave or the account is feeling elastic. Then handbags. A good handbag is container and announcement. It carries lipstick, compact, keys, tissues, money, perhaps cigarettes, perhaps a small address book, and the invisible suggestion that you know how to leave a room properly. Too plain, and it says little. Too flashy, and it says too much, which is often worse. The saleswoman understands this. She has seen women choose themselves in leather before. You move to dresses. The racks hold day dresses, cocktail dresses, suits, blouses, skirts, and newer shapes that seem to have arrived from a younger planet with shorter hems. The 1960s are pulling fashion in several directions at once. Old polish remains, youth rises. European designers, American sportswear, department store labels, and magazine pages all compete quietly under the lights. A wealthy woman may have access to beautiful things, but access creates its own weather system. If you can buy almost anything, taste becomes the judgment. A woman with less money may be excused for practicality. You are expected to choose well. The burden is wrapped in tissue paper, which helps, but only slightly. The clerk brings another size. She speaks gently. This one is more flattering. That one is very smart. This colour is being shown everywhere. That phrase, being shown, has authority. It suggests fashion is not being sold to you, but revealed by people with better information. You nod. A mirror waits nearby, bright and calm. Perhaps you are shopping for yourself. Perhaps for a dinner, a trip, a committee event, a daughter's occasion, a husband's business dinner, or a hostess gift. Gifts matter. They must show thought without showing panic. A silver dish, a scarf, a bottle of perfume, a linen set, a small decorative object. Too little looks careless. Too much looks odd. The gift department is where generosity becomes calculation and tissue paper becomes diplomacy. In the home department, there are towels, sheets, china, glassware, lamps, and decorative pieces that promise to improve the house without accusing it directly. You may choose guest towels nobody will use except under supervision. You may inspect china that will spend most of its life waiting for important people to eat carefully. The store understands your home as another body to be dressed. You pass the toy department, perhaps thinking of birthdays, rewards, or the mild danger of buying affection in a box. You pass the better coat department, where the air becomes heavier with money and confidence. The shopping trip may be pleasant. It may also tire you more than expected. Standing, choosing, smiling, deciding, being advised, imagining who will see what, and making money look tasteful can wear on the nerves. You sign for a package. The saleswoman wraps it with care. Your name joins the account. A bag is handed over, crisp and discreet. You step back into the store's wide aisle, surrounded by abundance that has been trained not to shout. The purchase is yours now, though it may not feel finished until someone approves it without saying so. That is the power of the department store. It sells dresses, gloves, china, perfume, and handbags, but it also sells the comforting belief that if you choose correctly, the world will know exactly where to place you. Inside the fitting room, a saleswoman adjusts a hem, pins a waist, smooths a shoulder, and speaks in the gentle, coded language of expensive clothing. The mirror is tall, bright, and not especially loyal. It shows the dress, but also the body expected to carry it, the age the dress may admit, the money it suggests, and the confidence required to wear it without asking for approval. The 1960s bring shorter hemlines, cleaner shapes, modern fabrics, and a sharper sense of youth. Youth, unfortunately, has never been shy about arriving early to judge the room. You stand on the small carpeted platform while the curtain hangs behind you, protecting privacy in a way that still allows the saleswoman to enter with pins. The fitting room smells of new fabric, powder, perfume, wool, lining, and the faint metallic scent of hangers. Outside the curtain, other women are being transformed, corrected, praised, or quietly redirected toward a different size. Inside, you study your reflection with the calm attention of a person reviewing evidence. The dress may be beautiful. That does not mean it is kind. It may pull slightly across the hips, sit high at the waist, flatten the bust, widen the shoulders, shorten the leg, or do that mysterious thing where expensive fabric suddenly behaves like it has personal doubts. The saleswoman says it only needs a small adjustment. Small adjustments have rescued many garments and several illusions. In this world, tailoring is both service and diplomacy. A good fitter knows how to discuss the body without declaring war on it. She will say the seam can come out a little, not that the dress has met resistance. She will say the line is very good, not that another dress made you look like someone's aunt in mourning. Her language is soft because the matter is not soft. Clothing touches vanity, age, money, marriage, appetite, and every private conversation a woman has had with her mirror since adolescence. Wealth gives you access to better cut, better fabric, better alterations, and saleswomen trained to protect your feelings while approaching them with pins. It does not give you a different body each season, though fashion sometimes behaves as if it should. The 1960s are especially rude in this respect. Earlier polish remains in suits, pearls, gloves, and neat dresses, but newer silhouettes are pressing forward. Slim sheaths, shorter skirts, straight lines, sleeveless dresses, bold prints, and younger styles begin to appear with growing confidence. By the later part of the decade, fashion is looking toward girls who seem to have been built from wire, eyelashes, and a cheerful disregard for lunch. If you are an affluent grown woman with children, a household, and a social calendar, this can feel like receiving instructions from another species. You may admire the clean new look. You may even enjoy it, but enjoyment and anxiety can use the same mirror. The saleswoman kneels and pins the hem. The skirt rises by a half-inch, then perhaps another. A shorter hem can look fresh, lively, modern. It can also make you wonder whether the women at the club will discuss your knees with the same seriousness usually reserved for real estate. The mirror says nothing. That is part of its cruelty. It simply reports. You turn slightly. The saleswoman steps back. She tilts her head, which means a decision is being formed in language polite enough to survive commission work. Perhaps she says the color is wonderful on you. Perhaps she says the other dress had more ease. Ease is a useful word. It can mean comfort, elegance, or retreat. You know this. She knows you know. Nobody needs to behave directly. Beyond the curtain, someone laughs. A hanger scrapes. Tissue paper rustles. The store continues around you as if no one in the fitting rooms is negotiating with time. You remember dresses from only a few years ago that felt safe and correct. Now they may seem slightly heavy, slightly formal, slightly older than they did when you bought them. Fashion does this on purpose. It turns perfectly good clothes into historical evidence before the wearer has finished paying the account. Still, there is pleasure here. A well-cut dress can change the body's mood. The right shoulder line can make you stand differently. A color can brighten the face. A fabric can fall so well that even the mirror seems to soften. You are not only being judged, you are also choosing. That matters. Women used fashion as expression, pleasure, armor, play, rank, flirtation, rebellion, and belonging. The rich woman's fitting room is not a prison. It is a negotiation room with better lighting. You choose what version of yourself can go out into the day and survive lunch, weather, judgment, and possibly a photograph. The saleswoman marks the alteration. Pins flash briefly at the hem. You step carefully out of the dress, returning it to her hands, as if it were an animal that may still change its mind. Your own clothes feel familiar again, perhaps safer, perhaps duller. The new dress hangs on the hook, unfinished but promising. It will be altered, pressed, wrapped, and sent home. Later, someone may admire it and say you look effortless. That will be kind of them. It will also be inaccurate. The mirror knows, the pins know, the saleswoman knows. Effortless is often what happens after 3 fittings and a very diplomatic hem. Lunch arrives on a plate that looks light enough to float away if conversation becomes too honest. There may be chicken salad, fruit, cottage cheese, iced tea, a roll, or something in gelatin being treated with more trust than it deserves. Around the table, women discuss schools, travel, decorators, husbands, children, illnesses, charities, and other women who are not present, which remains one of history's most dependable side dishes. The luncheon looks easy. It is not easy. It is reputation served chilled, with a fork placed carefully on the left. The room may be a club dining room, a hotel restaurant, a friend's sunlit breakfast room, or a table on a terrace where the chairs look formally prepared. The tablecloth is clean, the napkins folded, the flowers low enough to allow conversation and high enough to suggest effort. A waiter moves quietly, or a maid brings plates from the kitchen, or the hostess herself appears with the meal as if it has materialized through taste rather than labor. The air smells of coffee, perfume, cold chicken, crisp lettuce, cigarette smoke, and the faint sweet smell of dessert trying not to draw attention to itself. You sit with your handbag placed neatly nearby, your knees arranged, your smile ready, and your appetite under observation. Women's luncheons in affluent circles could be warm, lively, useful, and genuinely enjoyable. They were also arenas of information. A lunch table might carry news about schools, clubs, charity committees, marriages, doctors, children, houses, decorators, travel, and who has been invited where. Nobody needs to pound a gavel. The forks do the work more softly. The food is often light because the hour demands lightness. A heavy meal would seem wrong, as if the afternoon had been taken into custody. Chicken salad is respectable, fruit is safe. Cottage cheese remains committed to its long service in the history of feminine restraint. A roll may appear, though it may be treated like a guest whose background requires checking. Gelatin, meanwhile, has arrived in many mid-century kitchens with remarkable confidence. It can hold fruit, vegetables, seafood, or ambitions no substance should be asked to hold. A molded salad on a wealthy table says that the hostess has equipment, refrigeration, time, and perhaps a deep belief that food improves when made architectural. You take a bite and keep your face calm. This is one of the day's useful skills. At lunch, the mouth must eat, smile, answer questions, avoid saying too much, and not get lipstick on the wrong surface. The conversation begins gently. How are the children? How was Palm Beach? Did the decorator ever fix the curtains? Is the school still impossible about the new headmaster? Have you heard about the benefit committee? The questions sound harmless, but they carry tiny hooks. A child's school can reveal class ambition, a vacation can reveal money, a decorator can reveal taste, a charity role can reveal standing. Even asking whether someone has heard something may be less a question than an invitation to step into a small room with no windows. You answer carefully, warmly but not eagerly, honestly but not extravagantly. A rich woman who speaks too openly at lunch may discover that openness travels. That makes language important. You learn phrases that serve without exposing. How interesting. Isn't that something? I had no idea. We must see. She means well. These phrases are not empty. They are furniture. They give the conversation somewhere to sit until the dangerous part passes. There may be laughter, and some of it is real. You may enjoy these women. You may have known them for years. They may have brought casseroles during illness, recommended doctors, watched children, kept confidences, or helped you find your way through a new city. Female friendship matters deeply, especially in a life where husbands work long hours and houses can feel too quiet. But friendship inside status can become complicated. Someone may like you and still judge your dress. Someone may help you and still repeat your mistake. Someone may envy you and still bring flowers. Human beings have rarely limited themselves to one emotion at a time. The waiter refills iced tea, the glass sweats onto the table. A spoon touches the dish. A woman leans in and lowers her voice. The conversation narrows. Now comes the absent woman. She may have worn the wrong thing, spent too much, looked too thin, gained weight, flirted too openly, failed to attend something, attended too much, changed her hair, changed her husband, or simply become interesting by accident. You listen, perhaps join, perhaps stay quiet. Silence has its own risks. Too much silence can look disapproving. Too much agreement can look hungry. The luncheon teaches social balance through lettuce. You lift your fork and manage another careful bite. The afternoon sun brightens the room. Everything looks pleasant, and much of it is. But beneath the polished surface, lunch is doing social work. It sorts trust. It exchanges news. It tests taste. It keeps women connected and contained at the same time. By the time coffee arrives, you have eaten lightly, learned plenty, promised something, declined something, and possibly been invited somewhere without knowing whether you wanted it. The plates are cleared, the chairs move back. Everyone rises with soft bags and firm smiles. Lunch is over, nothing dramatic has happened. That is how you know it succeeded. In this world, a luncheon can wound, repair, recruit, warn, and entertain, all while appearing to be about chicken salad. At the country club, the grass is trimmed, the tennis whites are bright, the dining room is calm, and every doorway seems to know who is supposed to pass through it. The air smells of cut grass, chlorine, coffee, polished wood, perfume, and rules no one has to read because everyone has learned them by watching. Wealth can open a gate, but not always equally and not always kindly. Race, religion, class background, family name, marriage, and local custom often shaped who felt at home and who was merely being tolerated with excellent napkins. You arrive under a porte cochere or step from the lot with your handbag in place and your expression set to social ease. The building may be low, with white columns, a veranda, striped awnings, or a dining room looking out toward lawns. Nobody is supposed to cross in the wrong shoes. A man at the entrance may know your name, or the name attached to your husband, your father, your membership, and the strange comfort of belonging somewhere with a dress code. Belonging is the club's central product. The pool, golf course, tennis courts, and food matter, but the deeper attraction is permission. Here is a place that tells certain people they are at ease. Here is a dining room where voices stay low, chairs move quietly, and the silverware suggests that life has been organized for your benefit. For rich women in the 1960s, the club could be a social headquarters. It offered lunches, benefits, card games, children's swimming, tennis, golf, dances, holiday events, and a place to be seen without seeming to seek attention. The club helped maintain networks among families, businesses, schools, marriages, and friendships. It could also keep out people whom members preferred not to include. This exclusion was not always posted in large letters. Often it lived in committees, sponsorship rules, quiet refusals, guest policies, and the old art of making someone feel that a room is not for them without anyone raising a voice. In many country clubs and private clubs, barriers based on race, religion, ethnicity, and class could be formal, informal, or understood so well that formality was hardly needed. Black families, Jewish families, Catholics in some places, new money families, divorced women, single women, and people without the right sponsors might meet limits. Polite conversation refused to name directly. A club can have flowers on the table and still practice exclusion with great steadiness. That is part of the historical picture. For you, if you are safely inside the circle, the place may feel pleasant and almost ordinary. You greet women by name. You ask after children. You notice a new hair set, a good tan, a strained smile, a missing wedding ring, a husband at the bar who appears to have found a reason not to go back to the office. The club teaches observation. It rewards people who see without appearing to stare. In the locker room or powder room, more honest conversations may happen. A woman may complain about the heat, a daughter, a husband, a maid, a charity chairwoman, or a doctor who has recommended reducing without seeming fond of potatoes. Still, even the powder room has status. It has good soap, enough towels and chairs designed for waiting, as if waiting were a family achievement. Outside, children may splash in the pool under lifeguard whistles. Their laughter carries across the patio. The pool is bright blue and full of summer confidence. Mothers watch from shaded tables, measuring sun, behavior, swimsuits, and whether anyone else's child is becoming too wild near the deep end. A woman may smoke in sunglasses, sip iced tea, and look relaxed. She may also be managing 3 children, a lunch bill, a tennis lesson, a dinner invitation, and a private worry that the club will hear about before her husband does. Leisure has not stopped being management. It has merely acquired better chairs. In the dining room, a table is ready. The menu may offer salads, sandwiches, iced tea, cocktails, club specials, perhaps something restrained for women who are expected to eat with care, and something stronger for men who call it business. The waiter moves gently. You sit, unfold a napkin, and feel the old comfort of being served. Service can soften a day. It can also remind you that class is being performed at several tables at once. The woman serving you may live far from these lawns. The man carrying plates may know every family's habits without being invited to share their world. The club depends on invisible work, just as the house does. Its calm has staff. That is why it stays calm. You glance toward the windows. The grass shines. Golf carts move slowly in the distance. A flag stirs. A group of men laugh by the bar. Women at another table lean closer over coffee. Nothing here appears forceful. That is the skill of it. The club shapes behavior through comfort, tradition, invitation, and refusal. It rewards those who know the rules and disciplines those who do not by letting them feel the air change. You are inside, and that makes the room easier. It does not make it innocent. You lift your glass, answer a question, and smile at someone whose approval may matter more than either of you will admit. The napkin is excellent. The view is lovely. The gate outside is open, but only in the careful way a gate can be open when someone else decides who belongs. On the tennis court, the sun is bright, the skirt is crisp, and the instructor has the calm authority of a man paid to improve backhands while accidentally improving gossip. Tennis gives the body a reason to move without seeming unfeminine, idle, or difficult. It is exercise, display, discipline, flirtation risk, class ritual, and weather complaint, all disguised as a game involving a small white ball. You may sweat, but not too openly. You may compete, but not too fiercely. Even the score has manners. The court smells of warm surface, cut grass, sun lotion, clean cotton, and the faint rubber scent of shoes gripping as you move. The net hangs straight, which is more than can be said for many social arrangements. Beyond the fence, other women sit in shaded chairs with iced drinks, sunglasses, cigarettes, and expressions of mild athletic interest. You hold the racket and try to look ready. Tennis has a special place in affluent life because it allows motion without looking desperate. It is not heavy labor, factory work, housework, or the lonely business of a person facing a reducing machine and a guilty conscience. It is social exercise, which means the body may work as long as conversation remains possible afterward. In the 1960s, women's bodies were under constant instruction. Be slim but not severe, be fit but not muscular in a way that troubled people with strong feelings about upper arms, be energetic but still graceful. Tennis offered a respectable path through that maze. It had rules, clothes, clubs, lessons, and enough tradition to make running across a court seem elegant instead of alarming. The clothes help. Tennis whites carry their own authority. A white skirt, blouse, sweater, or dress says sport, but with laundering. The clothing is light, neat, and unforgiving to grass stains, perspiration, and private rebellion. If the skirt is too short, someone may notice. If it is too long, someone may also notice. The correct length is somewhere between modern enough and not inviting a committee. You bend your knees and try to return the instructor's ball. It taps the court, rises, and arrives with a cheerful lack of concern for your dignity. You swing. Perhaps you connect well. Perhaps the ball goes into the net with the quiet finality of a social call gone wrong. The instructor says, "Very good," which may be generous or professionally required. He adjusts your grip, reminds you to watch the ball, and suggests that the shoulder should relax. Many men have suggested that women relax while handing them more instructions. You smile. The lesson continues. Tennis gives you a kind of permission. You may run a little. You may laugh when you miss. You may show skill without seeming aggressive, as long as skill remains pleasant. Some women love the game deeply. They care about timing, footwork, practice, and the clean satisfaction of a shot placed exactly where intended. Others treat it as a reason to be outside, belong to a club, maintain a figure, or speak with the instructor about weather, schools, and who has been seen with whom. Both approaches can exist on the same court. A backhand and a rumor have shared space before. By this time, women's tennis as a public sport is gaining more visibility, though the social court is still its own world. Professional players train hard, compete seriously, and push against limits in pay and respect. At the club, that larger struggle is softened into lessons, whites, chatter, and iced tea, but it is not entirely absent. The simple fact of a woman hitting a ball hard and wanting to win has always made certain people rearrange their opinions of femininity. You feel the sun on your neck and the set of your hair beginning to make private complaints. If you came from the salon, the court is now testing a whole system of pins, spray, and optimism. A bead of sweat forms. which feels rude after all that preparation. You dab it carefully. Sweat must appear only as evidence of healthy activity, never as proof that the body has become fully involved. Nearby, another woman serves with sharp skill. Someone praises her, and someone else says she is very serious about it, in a tone suggesting that seriousness may have crossed a line. That is the little border. A rich woman may improve herself, she may play well, she may enjoy winning, but she must not make anyone uncomfortable by treating the game as if winning matters too much. Men may be competitive, women are invited to be charmingly capable. You play another point, this one lands in. The ball clears the net, bounces deep, and the instructor nods with real approval. You feel a quick spark of pleasure. Physical pleasure. The body has done something clean and exact. For a moment, the court belongs less to gossip and more to movement. Then someone calls your name from the patio, asking whether you are coming to lunch. The spell breaks gently. You lower the racket, smooth the skirt, and step back into the world of napkins and iced tea. Tennis has given you fresh air, effort, sunlight, and a few minutes in which the body was allowed to answer something directly. Naturally, the club has scheduled that freedom between 11:30 and lunch, so it does not get out of hand. At the charity committee table, you sit with a notepad, a handbag, and a polite smile that has already survived several small disappointments. The women discuss hospital benefits, school drives, museum events, church bazaars, flower arrangements, ticket sales, donors, programs, and whether Mrs. So-and-so can be trusted with anything involving names after last year. Charity gives wealthy women purpose, influence, and a public reason to be useful. It also turns kindness into minutes, chairmanships, seating charts, printed programs, and a very calm struggle over who gets thanked first. The room may be a club lounge, church hall, museum office, school room, or living room with coffee on a silver tray. The table holds pencils, papers, envelopes, lists, ashtrays, cups, and the faint smell of perfume warmed by concern. A woman at the head of the table has the posture of someone who says, "This will only take a moment and has never meant it." You open your notebook. The meeting begins with good intentions, which are plentiful. Good intentions fill the room, sit down, and immediately begin forming subcommittees. In affluent circles during the 1960s, charity work could be one of the main public outlets for women whose paid work was limited by marriage, class expectations, or social custom. Many women were skilled organizers. They raised money, arranged events, and supported hospitals, schools, churches, museums, arts groups, and civic projects. Some belonged to women's clubs, auxiliaries, junior leagues, church groups, or local boards. This work could matter greatly. Buildings were funded, scholarships created, and real help given. The problem is not that charity was false. The problem is that even goodness had to pass through status. You can feel that at the table. Who chairs the benefit? Who hosts the preview party? Whose name goes first on the program? Who knows the biggest donor? Who can call the bank president's wife? Who has the house and nerves for a patron reception full of strangers with small plates? These questions are never only practical. They are social weather. You listen as women discuss ticket prices. Too high, and the event looks cold. Too low, and it looks weak. The flowers must be tasteful, but not extravagant, because extravagance while helping the needy requires careful lighting. The program must be elegant, and the printer reliable. The invitations must go out on time. The guest list must include the right people and not forget the people who will remember being forgotten. Wealthy women were often expected to give back, and many did. Their names appeared on committees, plaques, invitations, and society pages. Public service became part of the performance of class. A woman who did nothing might seem selfish or dull. A woman who did too much might seem ambitious in a way that made other people move their chairs back. The correct amount of usefulness is difficult to measure, though many rooms have tried. You are asked whether you can handle calls to donors. Perhaps you can. Perhaps you have already handled 3 school matters, 1 salon appointment, and a husband who wants to bring 2 clients to dinner on Thursday. You say yes anyway, because a room full of women can make refusal feel like dropping a tray. The chairwoman smiles. Your name is written down. Ink can be binding when applied in public. The committee then turns to seating. Seating is where charity reveals its sharper tools. Mrs. Alan should not sit beside Mrs. Price because of the garden club argument. The mayor's wife must be near the front. The new couple should be included, but not too included. The widow should not be placed alone. The major donor needs to feel valued without looking purchased. Someone suggests a table arrangement. Someone else says, gently, that it is interesting. Interesting, in committee language, often means please remove that before it injures us. You take notes. The papers gather in front of you. A cigarette burns in an ashtray. A cup of coffee cools. The cause itself waits beneath the layers of social design. Somewhere there may be a hospital ward needing equipment, a school needing money, a museum needing support, or a family needing help. That need is real. So is the room's concern. But concern has arrived wearing pearls and asking who will do the flowers. It is easy to mock this, and history has done so often, yet it would be unfair to ignore the skill involved. These women know how to organize, persuade, flatter, remember, assign, follow up, soothe, and extract checks from people who believe they are too busy to be generous. They know which husband controls the account and which wife controls the husband. They know how to turn a luncheon into a donation and a donation into public duty. This is power, even when it is tucked under a napkin. The meeting moves toward its close, though not before 3 more issues appear. You agree to make calls. Someone else will handle flowers. Someone will speak to the printer. Someone will approach the difficult donor, because every charity has one wallet that requires music before opening. The women rise, gather handbags, and exchange soft remarks. The room looks unchanged, but several lives have been assigned new duties. You step away with papers in hand, knowing the good work will help someone and also ruin part of your afternoon. Charity has left the meeting with dignity. You have left with 12 phone calls and the strange honor of being useful in shoes that pinch. In the living room, the decorator opens books of fabric, wallpaper, carpet, and possibility. The sofa is expensive, but somehow wrong. The curtains are lovely, but perhaps too heavy. The chair your husband likes has become a problem with arms. In affluent 1960s homes, decoration is not only comfort, it is taste made visible, marriage negotiated through upholstery, and status expressed through lamps that nobody without money would have time to consider this deeply. You nod at a swatch as if the future may depend on whether the room becomes coral, avocado, gold, or beige. The room is already pleasant. That is what makes the problem harder. A poor room can ask for repair, honestly. A rich room must ask through hints. The sunlight comes through the windows and falls across the carpet, revealing that the old color is perhaps tired, or perhaps you are tired of it, which in decoration can amount to the same thing. The coffee table holds ashtrays, magazines, perhaps a vase, perhaps a bowl no one uses, because using it would disturb the idea of the bowl. The decorator sits with calm authority, turning pages as if opening diplomatic files. She may be a professional, a department store consultant, a fashionable friend, or someone recommended by another woman whose house everyone privately studies. In the 1960s, affluent interiors carried many messages. Early decade formal rooms with polished wood, tailored drapes, and traditional furniture still had power. At the same time, modern design, wall-to-wall carpet, Danish modern pieces, bright colors, bold patterns, new synthetics, built-ins, and television-centered family spaces were changing style. The question was not simply modern or traditional. The question was how modern you could be without making your mother uncomfortable, and how traditional you could remain without seeming to have retired from the present. You touch a fabric sample. It is thick, textured, and oddly persuasive. The decorator says it would warm the room. That is useful language. Warm means expensive, flattering, current, and perhaps capable of making the old sofa look less like a witness. She suggests a wallpaper. You imagine it covering the walls, quietly telling every visitor that you have taste, money, and enough confidence to let patterns speak before you do. Then she opens another book. The shades multiply. Coral, cream, blue, green, gold, rust, brown, beige. Beige is never merely beige in these conversations. It is sand, oatmeal, mushroom, champagne, stone, or something else that lets a color avoid introducing itself too plainly. You consider it. Beige can be safe. Beige can be elegant. Beige can also become the visual form of not wanting to offend anyone, which has furnished many homes. Your husband's chair remains across the room, heavy, comfortable, and innocent of its own crimes. He likes it because it supports the back. The decorator dislikes it because it interrupts the line. You may dislike it because it has survived every improvement by being useful, which is unfair but effective. Marriage often enters decoration through one chair. He has opinions about comfort, you have opinions about the room. The decorator has opinions about both of you, though she is paid not to share them too directly. The chair may stay, be recovered, move to a den, or disappear during a larger plan with the vague explanation that it works better elsewhere. Elsewhere is a powerful place in domestic life. Many difficult objects have been sent there. Decoration is labor, though it is rarely called that when done by women with money. It requires decisions, budgets, taste, patience, shopping, measuring, scheduling, and the ability to imagine a room that does not exist yet while standing inside one that still has guests coming on Friday. It also requires knowledge of what others will recognize. A new sofa is not only a place to sit, it is proof that you are not careless. Curtains are not only cloth. They frame the family's prosperity for the street and soften the truth that windows are holes in walls needing expensive manners. Lamps do not merely light a room. They create mood, which is what people call visibility when money has improved it. You walk toward the window and look back. The decorator suggests moving the sofa. You both pause. The room changes in the mind before a single piece of furniture moves. You imagine cocktail guests here, children told not to touch that, your husband reading there, a committee woman silently assessing the new drapes, your mother asking whether the old ones were worn out, which is not a question but a small trial. A home like this must appear personal, but not odd, modern, but not restless, comfortable, but not sloppy, expensive, but not loud. The decorator's job is to help the room speak in exactly that tone. Your job is to pay for it and then behave as if taste arrived naturally, like spring. She marks a choice. You hesitate. Fabric is not destiny, but it sometimes acts as if it knows where the family is headed. The sofa may be recovered, the curtains may change, the chair may face judgment. By the time the decorator closes the books, the room looks the same and yet has become temporary. That is decoration's trick. It makes a perfectly good living room feel like it has been quietly failing its potential. You stand among samples, lamps, and soft colors, aware that the house is supposed to express who you are. Unfortunately, it must do so after consulting the sofa. In the children's rooms, money has not made childhood simple. It has merely given childhood better shoes and more scheduled improvement. There are schools, lessons, manners, dentists, haircuts, piano practice, camp forms, birthday parties, uniforms, tutors, and the quiet hope that no child will say something startling in front of another mother. A rich child may have good toys, a large bedroom, and a future discussed over drinks. But the child also carries the family image in small socks. You are expected to raise them well and then make the effort disappear. The hallway smells of soap, clean cotton, shoe polish, crayons, and whatever snack has been hidden badly enough to become archaeology by Thursday. A bed is made, or half made, depending on whether the child attempted responsibility or merely performed a fabric disturbance. Toys sit on shelves, books lean beside a lamp, school shoes wait near the closet, and a sports bag has been left where adult feet will find it. The room is comfortable. It may be bright, spacious, and full of things a poorer child would regard with wonder. Yet childhood in a wealthy family comes with its own supervision. Opportunity is not allowed to wander freely. It is scheduled. The children have school, perhaps private school or a well-regarded public school in a good district. They may have music, dance, tennis, riding, swimming, tutoring, church, scouts, cotillion, or whatever the local version of improvement requires. The point is not only happiness, it is polish. A child must grow into the right kind of adult, and apparently this begins with clean fingernails and knowing how to thank someone's mother for a sandwich. You stand in the doorway and look at the evidence of young life resisting order. A sweater has been dropped, a drawer is open, a book lies face down, wounded but not yet dead. Children do not naturally understand that the family reputation may be resting on whether their socks match at a school recital. This is why mothers exist, according to the period's most confident voices. Wealth gives you help with the children, perhaps a nanny, babysitter, nurse, maid, driver, tutor, or grandmother with opinions. But the responsibility still returns to you. If the child behaves beautifully, the family has raised them well. If the child behaves badly, people do not usually blame the trust fund. They look toward the mother. In the 1960s, affluent motherhood carried a strong public image. The good mother was attentive, attractive, organized, calm, and involved, but not smothering. She kept children healthy, well-dressed, active, polite, and prepared for the future. She might supervise homework, arrange lessons, meet teachers, attend school events, plan birthdays, take children to doctors and dentists, write camp labels into clothing, and handle the social network around children as carefully as her own. The child's calendar becomes a smaller copy of yours, only with more snacks and less control over handwriting. You may kneel to tie a shoe. The laces are stubborn, because children's footwear has always had a private commitment to delay. You remind one child about manners before visiting another house. Please say thank you. Do not interrupt. Do not comment on the food. Do not repeat what Daddy said about Mr. Carter. This last instruction may save a marriage, a friendship, or at least Tuesday. Children are dangerous because they are honest before they have learned the cost of accuracy. A rich child at a party might say the maid makes better cake, ask why someone's father is never home, or announce a family secret while holding a paper plate. Mothers developed quick hands for redirecting conversation. You check hair, you straighten a collar. You feel affection, irritation, pride, worry, and tenderness moving together. These are not display children. They are yours. They are funny, difficult, sleepy, bright, selfish, frightened, generous, and unfinished in the way all children are. The problem is that your world keeps turning them into evidence. Their school placement says something, their manners say something, their friends say something, their teeth, posture, clothes, and summer plans say something. Even a birthday party can become a report on maternal effort. The cake, games, invitations, favors, photographs, and guest list must all behave. A child only sees balloons. The mothers see an entire civilization balanced on frosting. The future also sits in the room. Sons may be expected to follow fathers into good schools, good firms, good clubs, and the careful inheritance of confidence. Daughters may be raised for education, marriage, taste, independence in some families, and charm in nearly all of them. The decade is changing, and young girls may want different lives than their mothers were told to want. That change begins quietly, perhaps with a book, a teacher, a song on the radio, a magazine picture, or a daughter who asks why her brother is allowed to do something she is not. You may not have an answer ready. History often reaches the nursery before adults have prepared remarks. Still, the day continues, shoes are found, hair is brushed. A child complains. Another child unexpectedly hugs you, which ruins your irritation by being effective. You send them out, or towards school, lunch, lessons, or the yard. The room settles behind them, full of socks, books, and the remains of effort nobody will praise if it succeeds. Raising rich children is still raising children. The only difference is that the mess may happen on better carpet, which does not improve the carpet's opinion of the matter. At the small desk, the address book lies open beside a calendar, a pen, and a list of names connected to your husband's office, clients, partners, donors, or superiors. His work may happen downtown, in a boardroom, a bank, a law office, a studio, a firm, or an executive suite. Yet pieces of it come home wearing dinner jackets. You host the meal, remember the wife's name, send the note, choose the flowers, manage the guest room, and praise the promotion. Corporate success, it turns out, has developed a strong need for your table settings. The desk is small because your work is not officially work. That is one of its first jokes. A large desk might make the matter too obvious. Instead, there is a neat writing surface where family and social administration can gather without being named too directly. The address book is full of names that do not belong only to you: partners, clients, senior men, their wives, the doctor, the school head, the club secretary, the florist, the caterer, the woman who can find extra chairs, the woman who must not be seated near the other woman, unless everyone wants the evening to develop weather. You turn a page and look at the calendar. Your husband has a dinner, a reception, a visiting colleague, and a possible weekend with a couple who may be useful, pleasant, or both. In the 1960s, many affluent wives still played a real role in a husband's career, especially in business, law, politics, academia, medicine, entertainment, and corporate life. The phrase help meet may sound old-fashioned, but the work beneath it remained lively. A wife hosted, remembered, smoothed, introduced, listened, dressed correctly, kept the house ready, raised children who reflected well on the family, and helped build social trust around a man's professional world. She might not appear on the payroll, she might not attend the office, she might not be named in the promotion. Yet she helped create the conditions in which promotion could feel natural. This is labor with candles. You pick up the pen. A note must be sent to thank someone for last night. Another note must acknowledge flowers. Someone's wife must be called because she is new in town and should be included before she feels neglected. Someone else must be invited, though not too soon, because eagerness is a difficult color to wear. The address book turns social life into a map of obligation. You know which couples drink too much, which men talk too long, which wives are kind, and which guests must be separated by a centerpiece large enough to serve as landscape. Your husband may say, just ask a few people over, as if a few people come without food, seating, timing, lighting, memory, rank, and weather. He means well, perhaps, but he has not always seen the machinery. Men's careers often traveled through offices and informal rooms at the same time. A deal might not be made over dinner, but trust could be softened there. A client might feel valued. A senior partner might see that a younger man's household looks stable and reassuring. A visiting executive might be entertained. A wife's poise could become part of the husband's reputation, which is a heavy burden for a woman who simply wanted the roast not to dry out. You check the menu with the cook or consider what must be ordered: beef, chicken, fish, salad, dessert, coffee. The food must be good, but not boastful. The table must look elegant, but not as if you have been shaking with effort since breakfast, even if some shaking has occurred privately. The flowers should be low. The candles should not drip. The guest towels should be clean. The bar should be ready. A man may be judged by his handshake and office talk. You may be judged by the ice. This is not fair, but history has rarely delayed dinner to correct itself. You also manage conversation. That may be the hardest part. Your husband knows the office version of these people. You know the dinner version, which is often more useful. You remember that Mr. Benson's wife dislikes golf, that the new couple has a son applying to a certain school, that the senior partner likes bourbon, that his wife prefers sherry, and that nobody should mention last year's merger until coffee. These are facts, small and powerful. They do not look like labor because they fit inside the mind. The mind, however, can become crowded. You may have ambitions of your own, spoken or unspoken. Some affluent women in the 1960s worked, volunteered seriously, studied, organized, invested, wrote, campaigned, or longed for a different kind of life. Others chose home and social work with real pride. Many lived somewhere between satisfaction and restlessness. The difficulty is that a husband's career can fill a wife's day while still being called his career. You write the note, you cross off a name, you add another. The telephone waits nearby, ready to turn the list into voices. Downstairs, the house must be made ready for people who will discuss business without admitting the table helped. By evening, your husband may stand beside the bar and be praised for his good sense. Someone may say he is lucky. You will smile, because he is. The table is set, the flowers are placed, the wives are remembered, the guests are fed, and the career has come home to dinner without once offering to wash a glass. After lunch, you return to the bedroom and close the door with the quiet seriousness of a woman who has been pleasant for several hours and survived. The bedspread is smooth, the room is cool, and the house briefly stops asking for performance. Perhaps you lie down. Perhaps you only sit on the edge of the bed and remove your shoes. Rich women were often imagined as having endless leisure, but leisure can become another kind of duty when every hour is expected to produce beauty, charm, motherhood, taste, charity, or the correct expression at lunch. The quiet after a social meal has a special weight. It is not silence exactly. Somewhere downstairs, dishes are being handled, a telephone may ring once before someone else answers it, and the house settles into the soft mechanical hum of afternoon. But behind your door, the world has stepped back. The shoes come off first. This is not a grand act, but it feels honest. The shoe that looks so neat under the table has spent the morning holding your foot in a small argument with elegance. You place it aside, then the other, and feel the carpet under your toes. The room smells faintly of powder, linen, perfume, and the dry coolness of drapes pulled against the sun. You may loosen a bracelet, remove earrings, or unfasten a waistband, just enough to let the body remember it belongs to itself. Afternoon rest was not unknown in comfortable households, especially after a morning of calls, errands, meetings, luncheons, or club life. Some women truly napped. Some read. Some wrote notes. Some stared at the ceiling for 10 minutes with the blank dignity of a person who has carried too many conversations. The rest may be called leisure from the outside, and perhaps it is, but inside it, you can feel the recovery. Pleasantness takes energy. So does being gracious. So does hearing gossip without reacting, accepting obligations without sounding trapped, and remembering who is angry about what while appearing to have no knowledge of anger as a human practice. You sit on the bedspread, careful not to wrinkle it too badly. Even rest has presentation standards. A rich woman's room may be beautiful, but beauty does not always mean ease. The bedspread may be decorative enough to discourage actual sleeping. Pillows may exist mainly to be arranged by someone with strong opinions about symmetry. A chair may hold a robe, a book, or a dress waiting for the evening. On the nightstand, there may be a novel, a magazine, a small clock, a lamp, and the telephone, which is pretending to be innocent. You look at it with suspicion. The telephone has already proved it can find you anywhere. It knows no respect for emotional recovery. A woman with a full household rarely disappears completely. Children may need permission. The maid may need instructions. A florist may call. A friend may suddenly remember a detail that cannot wait because social life often mistakes itself for weather. Still, for a few minutes, the door is closed. You breathe more slowly. The public face softens. The afternoon light falls across the dresser. You may think of the lunch you just survived, the charity work waiting, the guests coming later, the children's schedules, the clothes to choose, the husband's message, or the fact that everyone keeps calling your life easy because it contains help. Help is real. Ease is more complicated. The decade itself is changing outside your room. More women are questioning the old scripts of marriage, house, children, beauty, and unpaid social labor. Books, magazines, television, politics, and private conversations are making new questions harder to avoid. You may feel those questions lightly or sharply, depending on your age, circle, marriage, education, and temperament. You may love your life and still feel tired by its shape. You may feel guilty for feeling tired. That is one of privilege's quieter traps. If life is comfortable, complaint can feel almost indecent, even when the discomfort is real. You lie back, perhaps only for a moment. The ceiling is calm, the room is cool, the house no longer needs you to smile. Your thoughts loosen their gloves. You may not sleep. Sleep would be too generous. Instead, you hover in that afternoon place between rest and readiness, where the body is still but the mind keeps arranging flowers, children, calls, dinner, clothes, and people's feelings. A car passes outside. A drawer closes downstairs. Somewhere someone laughs. The world continues, but not at full volume. The clock on the dressing table ticks with the calm of a thing never asked to be charming. Time moves on anyway. This is the private bargain of the afternoon. A little softness before the next performance. A small retreat that must not look like retreat. A pause that is allowed only because it will make you more presentable later. After a while, you sit up. The shoes wait like small obligations with heels. The mirror waits too. So does the evening. You smooth the bedspread, because even the evidence of rest must be removed before anyone sees it. Then you open the door and return to the day, having taken a break so carefully arranged that it has almost become another appointment. On the desk or beside the telephone, a glossy brochure promises escape. Palm Beach, Acapulco, Paris, Rome, Bermuda, a cruise, a ski lodge, a hotel balcony, a beach where no one appears to perspire in a regrettable way. Travel is one of wealth's clearest pleasures, and in the 1960s it becomes more advertised, more glamorous, and more possible for families with serious money or generous expense accounts. Still, even escape requires tickets, luggage, clothes, reservations, children's plans, and the troubling question of which swimsuit will behave best under public sunshine. You pick up the brochure and feel the slick paper slide under your thumb. The photograph shows blue water, bright umbrellas, hotel terraces, neat couples, and women in sunglasses who appear to have solved life through posture. No one in these pictures is lost, sunburned, overpacked, worried about a child's earache, or trying to find a missing travel document while wearing gloves. Advertising has always had the gift of removing practical facts before they spoil the view. A rich woman in the 1960s could travel in ways most people could only imagine. Jet travel was growing, ocean liners still held glamour, resorts sold sunshine with confidence, and travel agencies could turn a cold afternoon into a stack of possibilities. A business trip might become a couple's trip. A winter holiday might mean Florida, the Caribbean, Mexico, or a desert resort. A summer plan might involve Europe, New England, a lake house, a rented beach place, or the family club's preferred version of fresh air. This is real privilege, and it matters. A woman struggling with bills, work, transport, or childcare would not mistake a resort brochure for oppression. Yet privilege can still arrive carrying a clipboard. You are not only dreaming of travel, you are already managing it. Who is going? What dates work? Can your husband leave the office? Will the children come, stay with relatives, go to camp, or be watched by someone reliable? What clothes are needed? What suitcases, tickets, passports, travelers' checks, reservations, and hotel confirmations must be arranged? The brochure says escape. The desk says administration. You turn a page and see a dining terrace where everyone looks thin, tanned, and deeply comfortable near bougainvillea. Dinner dresses will be needed, day clothes too, swimwear, shoes for walking, if walking is expected to look intentional, a hat for sun, sunglasses, a wrap for evening, perhaps gloves for the airport, depending on the circle, the year, and how much dignity air travel is still expected to maintain. Travel in this period could still feel dressed up, especially for affluent travelers. A flight could be treated as an occasion. That meant the woman going on holiday might begin being on display before she had even left the ground. The trip may be meant to relax you. Naturally, it starts by judging your wardrobe. The places themselves carry status. Palm Beach says one thing, Bermuda says another. Paris says taste and money, unless said too often, in which case it says something else. A cruise suggests ease, routine, and the comforting belief that even the ocean has agreed to serve dinner. Acapulco, with its growing glamour in the period, suggests sun, style, and a little daring under good management. A ski lodge suggests sport, cold air, and the ability to look graceful while preparing to fall down a mountain at respectable speed. The brochure does not explain any of this, but it does not have to. You understand the code. Travel is pleasure, but it is also conversation. Where you go says what kind of life you have, what you can afford, whom you know, and how polished your leisure has become. You may genuinely long for the trip. The idea of leaving the committee calls, the school concerns, the country club weather, and the dining room table feels like fresh air before the bags are packed. There may be a real hunger in you for blue water, hotel sheets, a book by the pool, a morning without instructions, or an evening in which nobody asks where the serving spoon is kept. Yet even the fantasy contains performance. At the resort, you must appear relaxed in public. You must dress for breakfast, pool, lunch, shopping, cocktails, dinner, and whatever local excursion has been declared charming by people wearing sunglasses. You must not look as if the sun has beaten you. You must not look too eager in photographs. You must carry yourself as someone accustomed to travel, because nothing exposes newness faster than trying too hard to look used to things. The phone may ring while the brochure is still open. A travel agent, a friend recommending a hotel, your husband saying the dates may shift because business has developed a crisis, as business often does when a woman has already imagined sandals. You make a note, the pencil scratches, escape becomes another list. Still, the picture is beautiful, the sea is blue, the hotel balcony is waiting. A woman in the photograph stands beside a railing, untouched by laundry, committees, or the school's latest concern. You look at her with interest and suspicion. She is packed perfectly, apparently. Good for her. You close the brochure halfway, leaving the beach still visible. Wealth offers the horizon. It also asks you to coordinate the horizon with dinner reservations, proper luggage, and a bathing suit with emotional discipline. The trip may be paradise, but first it must survive your calendar. The suitcase lies open on the bed, and relaxation immediately becomes complicated. There are slim trousers, silk blouses, sunglasses, sandals, straw hats, bathing suits, cover-ups, dinner dresses, travel bottles, jewelry cases, gloves for the airport, and a handbag large enough to hold lipstick, tickets, and mild dread. The rich woman on holiday is expected to appear casual but not careless, comfortable but not plain, bright but not loud, modern but not alarming. Nothing reveals the discipline of privilege quite like preparing to look carefree beside a swimming pool. The bed is covered with possibility, and almost all of it wrinkles. Garments lie in careful piles, day clothes here, evening clothes there, shoes by imagined occasion, underthings folded with the seriousness of a diplomatic pouch. The room smells of perfume, leather, tissue paper, clean fabric, and the faint chemical promise of travel bottles that will almost certainly leak if given the chance. Packing is one of those tasks that looks simple only to people who have never been blamed for forgetting anything. If your husband forgets cufflinks, it is a small irritation. If you forget the child's medicine, the right evening wrap, the travel documents, the hostess gift, or the stockings that go with the pale dress, the vacation may begin developing testimony. You stand beside the bed and make decisions. A bathing suit is lifted and judged. The 1960s swimsuit has shape, structure, and an interest in holding the body in a hopeful arrangement. It may be a one-piece with a neat line, a bright print, a belted detail, or something newer and bolder depending on the year, resort, and your courage. Bikinis exist, of course, and become more visible, but many affluent grown women approach them with caution, curiosity, or the firm belief that some ideas are best left to daughters and film stars. A poolside outfit must say relaxed money, not panic with a label. A cover-up helps, so does a straw hat. So does the practiced art of sitting in a lounge chair as if thighs have never been a topic. You fold a pair of trousers. Casual trousers are useful for travel, sightseeing, or resort mornings. Though casual clothing for wealthy women still has manners. It is pressed. It matches. It suggests ease through planning. There are blouses that can handle lunch, a cardigan for air-conditioned rooms, a dress for dinner, another dress in case the first dress becomes wrong through reasons nobody can explain. Shoes multiply. Sandals for pool, heels for evening, walking shoes that must not look too honest. A woman packing for a trip is not preparing for one life, but several. Traveller, wife, mother, guest, tourist, dinner companion, poolside figure, and person who must not seem surprised by anything. The jewelry case opens. Not everything can come. Too much jewelry looks foolish. Too little may make a formal dress feel abandoned. You choose pieces with care. Pearls are safe. A bright bracelet may help. Cocktail rings enjoy travel because they like light and attention. The travel bottles wait for shampoo, lotion, cold cream, perfume, and whatever beauty ritual cannot be trusted to foreign shops, resort pharmacies, or hotel bathrooms with poor shelves. There is a small anxiety in decanting one life into tiny bottles. Your whole face must arrive intact, apparently. The children's things may be nearby if they are coming. Their clothes, toys, books, swimsuits, medicine, and shoes add a different kind of weather. If they are not coming, there are instructions for whoever will watch them. Either way, the children enter the suitcase by fact or by worry. A holiday without children may be restful, but only if the mind agrees to stop checking on them from several states or an ocean away. The husband's packing may be simpler, at least in theory. Suits, shirts, ties, swim trunks, shoes, shaving kit. He may ask whether you have seen his passport or which jacket he should bring, as if the family's travel intelligence has naturally formed around your head. You answer, because you probably do know. This is part of the job that is not a job. The suitcase fills. Tissue paper goes between garments. Shoes are tucked into corners. Hats present problems because hats have always believed luggage should be designed around them. You may use a hat box. You may decide the hat is worth trouble. You may decide the hat has had its chance at happiness and leave it behind. Outside the room, the house continues. A phone rings. A child calls. Someone asks where the blue bag is. You close your eyes for 1 second, not from despair, but from the need to keep all lists upright in the mind. Then you continue. Packing promises escape, but first it turns the bed into a small customs office. Each item must justify itself. Each omission may return later with witnesses. Finally, the suitcase nears fullness. You press down gently, then more firmly. The clasps resist, because even expensive luggage likes to test character. At last, they close with a satisfying click. The room is calmer now. though only because most of the worry has been trapped inside leather. You look at the case and imagine the pool, the plane, the hotel, the balcony, the dinner dress, the sun. You are almost ready to relax. Naturally, relaxation now weighs 30 pounds and requires a luggage tag. At the bridge table, the cards are shuffled, the ashtrays are placed, and someone says something mild that may contain 3 separate meanings. Bridge is not only a game, it is memory, manners, arithmetic, silence, partnership, rivalry, and social listening disguised as leisure. The room smells of coffee, perfume, cigarette smoke, polished furniture, and the faint worry of a woman who has just realized her partner has bid with reckless optimism. Cards move across the table, so does information. A hand can be played badly, so can a marriage. The table is small, square, and serious. There may be a green felt cover, score pads, pencils, cigarette cases, glasses, biscuits, and coffee. Because games, like charity, move better with caffeine. The women settle into chairs with handbags placed nearby and expressions adjusted for friendly combat. Bridge has rules, and its rules are not merely printed in books. They are stored in memory, tone, and eyebrow movement. You pick up your cards and fan them carefully. The little paper rectangles become a private landscape of hope and danger. Hearts, clubs, diamonds, spades. Some hands arrive with promise. Some arrive like disappointing relatives, requiring politeness and a plan. Contract bridge had become a major social game among middle-class and upper-class Americans earlier in the century, and remained an important pastime in many affluent circles. Through the 1960s, it was respectable, intelligent, social, and portable. It could be played in living rooms, clubs, hotels, and vacation houses. It gave women a reason to gather regularly without the meeting needing a public cause. Unlike a luncheon, it required focus. Unlike a committee, it had clear rules, although some partners behaved as if rules were a personal suggestion. You study your hand and listen to the bidding. This is where the table reveals character. A cautious woman bids carefully, perhaps too carefully. A bold woman leaps. A nervous woman overthinks. A confident woman may become dangerous if her confidence has not consulted her cards. Your partner speaks. You feel a small inward movement. The bid is not wrong, exactly. It is ambitious in the way some wallpaper is ambitious, which is to say everyone will have to live with it soon. You answer properly, because bridge manners matter. You cannot sigh. You cannot stare. You cannot say, "What are you doing, Margaret?" unless the friendship has already survived worse and the afternoon has lost all shame. You must communicate within the system. Around the table there is talk, but not too much during play. Someone mentions a daughter's college plans. Someone else asks, after a husband's business trip. A third woman says she heard the charity event is changing venues, and suddenly the room has another game running beneath the first. Cards require attention, but rich social life rarely wastes a room. Information slips in between tricks. Who was seen at lunch? Who has been ill? Who is redecorating? Who may be leaving the club? Who is drinking more? Who is spending less? A bridge table can be a news desk with better ashtrays. You play a card, it lands softly. Another follows. The trick is taken. There is a small satisfaction in correct play, the mind lining up possibilities, counting suits, remembering what has fallen, and sensing what another player is trying not to show. For women whose intelligence was often expected to serve household life quietly, bridge offered a real mental sport. It required memory, logic, restraint, partnership, and nerve. A woman could be sharp here, even fierce. As long as she remained socially readable, skill was admired. Open fury was not, though bridge has produced many refined versions of fury that can be carried in a teaspoon. Your partner leads. The wrong card appears. You feel it before the table does. The whole afternoon tilts by one small rectangle. You continue smiling. This is where the game becomes moral training. Marriage may teach patience. Children may teach patience. Committees may test patience. Bridge gives patience a score. When the hand ends, there is a pause. Someone records the result. The pencil moves over the score pad with calm cruelty. Perhaps your side has lost points. Perhaps the bid failed by one trick. A number so small it feels designed by society to annoy. Someone says, "Never mind," in a tone that means the mind has noticed everything. Coffee is poured. Smoke rises. The next hand begins. There is comfort in repetition. Shuffle, deal, sort, bid, play, score. The pattern carries the afternoon gently, while small human truths gather around it. Some women play for pleasure. Some play for rank. Some play because the group has met every Thursday for years, and not attending would require an explanation. Some play because it is easier to sit with friends over cards than to admit loneliness directly. The room is warm, the curtains soften the light, the ashtrays slowly fill. You win a hand and feel a quiet flash of triumph. It is not loud. Loud triumph would be unattractive. You accept congratulations with the face of someone who believed modestly in the cards all along. Another hand comes, another bid, another small drama conducted under the name of leisure. By late afternoon, the score has been counted, the coffee has cooled, and the women have exchanged more than cards. You gather your handbag and rise. Nothing has happened, except arithmetic, rivalry, friendship, gossip, and the delicate discovery that Margaret should never be trusted with 5 hearts again. As evening settles, the lamps come on, and the house prepares to behave socially. There is ice in the bucket, glasses on the tray, olives, cigarettes, perfume, cologne, music, laughter, and the careful sound of people becoming slightly more interesting than they were earlier in the day. Cocktail hour in wealthy circles can be warm, funny, glittering, and genuinely pleasant. It can also become a small theatre where marriages, money, business, politics, taste, and private unhappiness are shaken with gin and poured into good glassware. You stand in the living room and watch the light change. The afternoon has gone soft at the windows. Lamps warm the corners. A tray waits on the sideboard with the air of something that knows it will soon be important. The bar is arranged with bottles, mixers, lemon twists, ice tongs, napkins, and small tools of civilized drinking. A cocktail shaker gleams. It looks cheerful, useful, and too aware of its influence. The room smells of furniture, polish, flowers, cigarette smoke, perfume, and the sharp promise of gin or whiskey before the first glass is poured. In the 1960s, cocktail hour remained a ritual in many affluent homes. It could mark the end of the workday, the start of dinner, the arrival of guests, or the soft border between family life and social performance. A drink could relax the room. It could also reveal the room. You know this. You check the glasses anyway. Your husband may come home from the office, loosened slightly by the day but not yet fully domestic. He may bring news, fatigue, pride, irritation, or guests. Men often used cocktail conversation to continue business in a less formal key. A client, partner, neighbor, or friend could stand by the bar and speak of markets, politics, golf, travel, promotions, and decisions that would later be called work again. Women moved through the same room with their own tasks: greeting, noticing, serving, smoothing, listening, remembering, and making sure no one is left alone too long with the wrong person. You may pour, or the maid may bring the tray, or your husband may perform the mixing, because bar work gives men a domestic role with ice and authority. A man making a martini can look purposeful. A woman making the whole evening possible can look decorative. History enjoys the arrangement. The first guests arrive. There is the door, voices in the hall, greetings, coats taken, compliments offered. Someone says the room looks wonderful. You say thank you, while privately remembering the decorator's beige argument and the chair that almost caused a small domestic collapse. A woman's dress is admired. A man's tie is mentioned. A guest asks for scotch. Another prefers sherry. Someone says just a small one, which may or may not be true. Ice cracks in a glass. Cigarettes are offered. A lighter flashes. Smoke rises and softens the lamps, giving the room that period look of elegance slowly becoming upholstery. The conversation begins broadly. Weather, traffic, children, school, a club event, a joke about the office. Everyone is finding their place. Cocktail hour has stages, though no one announces them. First comes arrival brightness. Then the first drink. Then the loosening. Then the moment when somebody says something more honest than intended, and everyone decides, together, whether to catch it or let it fall. That is where skill matters. A rich hostess must be alert without appearing watchful. You notice who is drinking quickly, who is bored, who has arrived in a mood, and who might need food before their personality becomes too available. Canapés circulate. Cheese, crackers, olives, nuts, tiny sandwiches, perhaps something warm from the kitchen. The small food carries a large responsibility. It must slow the alcohol, please the guests, and not fall apart on a dress. A canapé that collapses has failed socially and structurally. You take one yourself, mostly because a woman holding nothing can be assigned a task too easily. The drink in your hand may be a martini, sherry, whiskey, gin and tonic, or something lighter. Alcohol can soften a woman's evening, but it is watched differently for women than for men. A man who drinks may be hearty, tired, sociable, or under pressure. A woman who drinks too much becomes a topic before the ice melts, so you sip with care. The glass is cold, the room is warm, music plays low, someone laughs from the sofa. Someone else has begun speaking about business, though everyone is pretending this is leisure. Cocktail hour has a gift for making private life and public life share the same ashtray. It can be genuinely happy. Friends laugh, a husband tells a story well, a wife catches another woman's eye. The house looks alive in the evening light. For a moment, the effort works. The polished room, the lamps, the drinks, the flowers, the clothes, the greetings, the whole arrangement becomes warm and human. Then a comment lands badly, or someone mentions politics, or a guest remembers a slight from last spring, or the bar runs low on ice. The theatre continues. You move gently through it, adjusting the air without seeming to touch anything. Another tray appears, another glass is poured, the lamps glow, the voices rise and settle. By the time dinner is ready, the room has become itself fully, charming, smoky, expensive, fragile, and slightly louder than it believes. Cocktail hour has done its work. It has made everyone easier to feed and just honest enough to become dangerous. Before dinner, you check the candles, flowers, place cards, silver, napkins, water glasses, and the dangerous geography of who must not sit beside whom. The cook, caterer, or household help may have done much of the labour, but the success of the evening will still float toward you or fall on you, depending on the guests. A rich hostess does not simply serve dinner. She manages heat, hunger, hierarchy, politics, flirtation, boredom, lighting, and the tragic possibility that the roast may be remembered longer than the conversation. The dining room waits in a state of polished expectation. Chairs are placed, the tablecloth is smooth, the silver catches the lamplight. The flowers are low enough for sightlines, because even roses must understand social function. A taller arrangement may look dramatic in a magazine, but at dinner, it can force two guests to speak around a hydrangea as if negotiating through shrubbery. You move from place to place, making small adjustments that no one should notice because the whole point of perfect preparation is to erase the evidence that preparation happened. The napkin turns slightly, a fork is straightened, a water glass moves half an inch. Half an inch is not a large distance, but in a formal dining room it can carry moral weight. In affluent 1960s households, dinner parties could be part pleasure, part duty, and part business without anyone admitting which part had arrived first. Your husband may have invited a colleague, a client, a superior, an old friend, or someone useful to a future no one wants to discuss too directly over soup. You may have invited women whose friendships matter, couples whose presence balances the table, and one person who must be included because leaving her out would cause more damage than feeding her. The guest list is never only a list, it is a seating plan for feelings. You look at the place cards again. Married couples should usually be separated enough to keep them interesting, but not so far apart that one of them begins to enjoy the distance too much. Two talkers must not sit together unless the rest of the table has accepted silence as a spiritual exercise. The shy guest needs help. The vain guest needs a listener. The man who argues about politics needs someone beside him with either patience or no hearing in one ear. A dinner party is a meal, but it is also crowd control with candles. From the kitchen comes the smell of roast meat, butter, sauce, warm rolls, coffee beginning its later destiny, and perhaps the faint emergency of something that needs 5 more minutes and has chosen not to receive them. The cook or caterer may carry the harder labour. Hands have chopped, stirred, basted, washed, chilled, lifted, plated, and cleaned, but the evening's meaning still lands on you. Guests do not usually say the cook created a lovely atmosphere. They say you did. This is unfair, but useful to people who enjoy praising a room while forgetting the kitchen. You step toward the doorway and listen. The voices from the living room rise and settle. Cocktail hour has loosened the guests. but not too much, you hope. Dinner must begin before anyone becomes honest in a way that affects the fish course. You signal, perhaps softly, the move to the table begins. Chairs pull out, dresses brush fabric. Men make little jokes about hunger. Women glance at place cards and immediately understand several decisions you have made. Seating is never private. It is read as quickly as a telegram. Once everyone sits, the first course arrives, and the table becomes alive. Soup, salad, fish, roast, vegetables, bread, wine, dessert, coffee. The exact menu depends on your household, region, staff, budget, and the kind of evening being staged. It should be elegant but not strange, good but not fussy, modern enough to suggest taste, traditional enough to keep nervous guests from wondering whether dinner has joined a movement. You eat while watching the table. This is the hostess's art. You must appear to enjoy the meal while quietly noticing who needs water, who is being ignored, whether the young man has trapped the widow in a story, whether your husband is speaking too long, whether the guest of honor looks pleased, and whether dessert can enter before the conversation discovers taxes. Your body is at the table. Your mind is in 6 chairs at once. Yet there is pleasure here too. Candles soften faces. Laughter gathers. Someone tells a good story. The wine warms the room. A woman across from you catches your eye, and for a moment the two of you share the secret knowledge that this whole elegant ritual is balanced on timing, heat, and the hope that nobody mentions the wrong divorce. Dinner parties can create real friendship, real memory, real delight. They can also prove that domestic grace is a kind of management disguised as charm. By the time dessert is served, you have smiled through one awkward remark, redirected 2 conversations, silently thanked the kitchen 3 times, and accepted credit for a meal whose labor was spread through several invisible hands. The coffee arrives, the table relaxes, the evening has survived. Later, someone may say it all seemed effortless. You will accept the compliment because correcting them would take too long and possibly require showing them the seating chart. After the guests leave, the house regains its expensive silence. The dress comes off, the earrings are placed in a small dish, the shoes are removed with less grace than they arrived. In the mirror, the evening face begins to loosen, and the bright room turns honest around the edges. This is the hour when social life stops being performance and becomes evidence. Who noticed you? Who ignored you? Who drank too much? Who was charming? Who was cruel? And whether the whole glittering evening was worth the ache in your feet. The bedroom receives you differently at night than it did in the morning. Earlier, it was preparation. Now it is recovery. The lamps are lower, the bedspread waits with its smooth surface. The dressing table is lit just enough to catch the shine of a bracelet, the gold edge of a compact, the pale marks where powder has settled on skin. Downstairs, the last glass may have been collected. A chair may still be slightly out of place. The dining room holds the faint smell of coffee, wine, flowers, candle smoke, and roast meat surrendering to memory. If you listen carefully, you may hear the kitchen being restored by someone else. Plates stacked, water running, silver handled. The house being put back together after it has successfully pretended not to need putting back together at all. You close the bedroom door. The first deep breath arrives. It is not dramatic. It is simply yours. The dress loosens at the zipper. Perhaps you reach behind your back with the familiar awkwardness of women everywhere, rich or poor, who have been trapped by clothing designed by people optimistic about shoulder joints. The fabric slides away from the body. The evening version of you begins to dissolve. This is not sadness exactly. It may even be relief. A beautiful dress can carry you through a room. It can also hold you in place for hours, reminding the ribs that elegance has opinions. You hang it carefully, or perhaps lay it over a chair with the private impatience of a woman who has been careful long enough. The shoes come next. They may be lovely, satin or leather, narrow, high, chosen to match the dress and to punish the foot for belonging to biology. You step out of them and feel the floor with gratitude. It is amazing how quickly status leaves the room when toes are allowed to spread. The earrings are removed, one, then the other. The lobes feel lighter. A necklace is unclasped. A bracelet slides over the wrist. Rings come off and rest in a dish. Each piece of jewelry has spent the evening helping you look finished. Now it lies there like evidence from a very polite trial. You sit at the dressing table and look into the mirror. The face looking back is familiar, but less public. Lipstick has faded at the center. Powder has gathered lightly near the nose. The hair, so carefully shaped earlier, has begun to confess small weaknesses. A pin may have shifted. A curl may have surrendered. Hairspray can do a great deal, but even it cannot hold back midnight forever. You think through the evening not in a neat order, but the way evenings return after they are over. Mrs. Allen's remark before dinner. Your husband's laugh by the bar. The client who seemed pleased. The woman who looked tired and tried to hide it. The guest who drank faster after the salad. The joke that nearly went wrong. The roast which survived. The seating, which worked except for one stretch near dessert when politics came too close to the table and had to be moved away with coffee. Social life leaves traces. Some are pleasant. Some sting. Some require interpretation in the morning. You may wonder whether you said the right thing, wore the right dress, thanked the right person, noticed the right slight, missed the wrong one. This is the accounting of the self. It does not appear in household books, but it is kept with care. The richer the evening, the more polished the surface, the more quietly complicated the inner ledger can become. You may also feel pride. The dinner worked, the flowers looked good, the guests were fed, your husband was pleased, the women admired the room. The conversation did not collapse. A small society moved through your house and left believing it had done so easily. That is an accomplishment, even if nobody names it. The work of hosting is not only cooking or cleaning, it is attention, it is emotional memory, it is reading a room before the room knows it needs reading. It is smiling while calculating whether the next course should arrive. A man may wake tomorrow and remember that the evening went well. You may remember why. You reach for cold cream or cleanser. The first touch is cool. Makeup begins to blur under your fingers. The public face softens, then lifts away into tissue. The tissue holds powder, lipstick, and the faint color of the evening. Underneath is skin, tired but real. You are not hostess now, not wife beside the bar, not tasteful mother, not committee woman, not the woman whose sofa was admired, just a woman in a quiet room with aching feet and pins to remove. The clock ticks. The house finally stops performing. You put the jewelry away, smooth the dress, and leave the shoes where they can think about what they have done. In the quiet rooms, a beautiful house can feel larger than it did when people were admiring it. The flowers remain arranged, the sofa remains correct, the silver has gone back to shining. Somewhere, a clock ticks with the calm of an object that has never been expected to be fascinating at lunch. Wealth can protect a woman from many hardships, and that matters. But it does not automatically protect her from loneliness, marriage strain, boredom, aging, social judgment, grief, or the strange feeling of being envied and unseen at the same time. You move through the house slowly, checking what does not need checking. The hallway is dim, the lamps are low. The carpets soften your steps until you feel like a visitor in your own life. A large house at night has many kinds of silence. There is the silence of closed bedrooms, the silence of guest towels untouched, the silence of a dining room after praise, the silence of a living room, whose chairs have just held people and now hold only their shape. Earlier the house was alive with voices, smoke, ice, laughter and plates. Now it has become an exhibit of success without the people in it. The furniture remains handsome, the drapes hang properly, the flowers still perform. This is comfort, but it is not company. The hour is not cruel. It is only clear, which can sometimes feel almost the same after a long day of smiling. In the 1960s, affluent women were often shown in magazines and advertisements as living inside solved problems. The home was beautiful, the children were clean. The husband was successful, the appliances gleamed, the clothes fitted, but real life is rarely persuaded by architecture. A woman could have a large house and still feel alone inside it. She could have friends and still feel watched by them. She could have a husband and still feel distance at the dinner table. She could have children and still face hours when everyone needed something from her but nobody quite saw her. Money can buy help. It cannot buy the exact person who asks whether you are happy. You pause in the living room. The sofa looks perfect, perhaps too perfect. A house arranged for display can sometimes discourage ordinary comfort. There may be a chair nobody sits in casually, a table nobody places a cup on without a coaster, a room used mainly for guests, and a family room where real life can loosen its collar. Formal rooms can be beautiful. They can also become places where the house is more composed than the people living in it. You touch the back of a chair and feel the cool fabric. Perhaps the decorator was right. Perhaps the room looks wonderful. Still, the room cannot answer you. It has excellent taste and poor conversation. Private loneliness is delicate in a privileged life because it feels difficult to admit. What right do you have to be lonely here, with good curtains, help in the kitchen, fine clothes upstairs, and invitations on the calendar? That question can become a small prison. Gratitude is real, so is longing. They do not cancel each other. Yet busyness can cover loneliness the way a tablecloth covers a scratched table. It looks smooth until the light shifts. The social world offers company, but not always intimacy. You may know many people and still wonder which of them could be called at midnight without first arranging your voice. You may be envied by women with less money, and not without reason. But envy does not always see the room after guests leave. It sees the dress, the house, the car, the holiday. It may not see the woman walking through the hallway, trying to name an impolite feeling. Marriage could sharpen the silence. Some marriages were affectionate, steady, and kind. Some women had husbands who worked long hours, travelled, drank too much, strayed, dismissed their concerns, or simply shared a house without sharing much of the inner weather. Divorce was becoming more visible, but still carried heavy judgment in many affluent circles. A woman might stay because of love, children, money, religion, reputation, habit, fear, or hope. None of these reasons fits neatly into gossip. That never stopped gossip from trying. Aging adds another small pressure. The world that praised you for youth, beauty, polish, and charm may grow less generous as the mirror changes. New young women arrive in shorter skirts with easier laughter and less loyalty to old rules. Daughters begin asking questions mothers had learned to swallow. You stand by the window and look out at the dark lawn. Somewhere beyond the glass, sleeping houses stretch into the night. Every home has its own silence. Some are peaceful. Some are tender. Some are full of arguments being saved for morning. You are not suffering in the way many people suffer. The house is warm. The bills are paid. There is food, safety, and softness. That matters deeply. But the heart is not an accountant. It does not look at the carpets and agree to behave. You turn off a lamp. The room falls back into shadow. The perfect house remains perfect. That is the trouble with it. It can look complete even when the woman walking through it does not. At the dressing table, you begin removing the day from your face. Cold cream, tissues, pins, powder, lipstick, earrings, perfume, and hairspray all surrender in stages. The woman in the mirror looks less finished now, and perhaps more real. The rich 1960s day has carried you from bedroom to breakfast, telephone to salon, luncheon to club, decorator to dinner party, all while pretending that comfort had made life simple. Now the house is dark, the calendar is quiet, and the only truly luxurious thing left is the chance to stop being impressive. The chair creaks softly as you sit. The dressing table is covered with small objects that have spent the day helping you remain legible to the world. A compact lies open. A lipstick has lost its perfect edge. Hairpins rest in a dish like tiny tools after a long shift. A perfume bottle catches the lamplight and gives back a soft gold glimmer, as if it has no idea what the body has endured in its name. You reach for cold cream. The lid turns. The scent rises, clean, thick, faintly floral, and deeply connected to every woman who has ever leaned toward a mirror at night and decided the public face has done enough. You smooth it over your cheeks, forehead, chin, and throat. The cream is cool at first, then warming under your fingers. Powder blurs, mascara softens. Lipstick gives way. The tissue comes away marked with colour, a little map of the evening disappearing. There is a comfort in this. Taking off makeup can feel like telling the truth by touch. The day began with preparation. Now it ends with undoing. In the 1960s, beauty routines often framed a woman's day from both sides. Morning required freshness, polish, hair, makeup, scent, clothing, posture. Night required removal, repair, preservation, and the promise that tomorrow's face could be managed again. Magazines and advertisements offered creams for youth, lotions for softness, powders for finish, perfumes for charm, and advice so confident it almost deserved its own chair. Some of it was pleasant, some products felt good, some rituals were private comforts. But the larger message was steady. A woman should be cared for, attractive, smooth, fragrant, controlled, and ready to reappear. Even sleep was sometimes approached as a beauty strategy, which is quite a burden to place on unconsciousness. You remove another pin, then another. The hair begins to loosen from its careful shape. The salon's architecture gives way to gravity, pillow, and truth. A strand falls near your cheek. You brush it back. Perhaps your scalp aches faintly where pins held too long. Perhaps the hairspray has left the hair stiff in places, a little monument to the afternoon. You work slowly, because no one is watching now. That changes everything. The hands no longer need grace, they only need kindness. You may think back over the day in fragments. The bedroom curtains, the maid in the kitchen, the cautious breakfast, the closet, the ringing phone, the salon dryer, the department store, the fitting room, the lunch, the club, the tennis court, the committee table, the decorators' samples, the children's shoes, the address book, the afternoon rest, the travel brochure, the suitcase, the bridge cards, the cocktail tray, the dinner table, the silent rooms after everyone left. Each scene looked like privilege from the outside, and often it was. It also carried effort, watchfulness, choice, and performance. That is the quiet truth of this world. Money can soften life. It can remove many dangers. It can bring beauty, help, space, medicine, travel, education, and comfort, but it cannot remove the human need to be seen clearly. It cannot make a marriage kind, a friendship safe, a body ageless, a child simple, or a room warm merely because the curtains cost enough. You wipe away the last of the lipstick. Your mouth looks plainer now, and perhaps more yours. The mirror no longer shows the hostess, shopper, wife, mother, committee member, clubwoman, or well-dressed proof that everything is fine. It shows one tired person, sitting in a quiet room, removing the evidence of a successful day. That is not failure, it is the day becoming honest. You place the used tissues aside. You close the cream jar, the earrings go back into their box. The perfume bottle remains on the tray, ready to begin again tomorrow with unnecessary confidence. A robe waits nearby. The bed has been turned down. The sheets look cool and clean. Somewhere in the house, a pipe settles. A clock ticks. Perhaps a child stirs and falls quiet again. The telephone does not ring. This may be the kindest thing it has done all day. You stand, switch off the lamp, and let the mirror go dark. For once, no one needs an answer, an outfit, a seating plan, a pleasant expression, or a woman who can make effort vanish. The house is still beautiful, but it has stopped asking to be admired. You move toward bed in the dim room, with your face bare, your hair released, and your body finally excused from being evidence. The day is over. The calendar can wait. Tomorrow will arrive with its creams, calls, fabrics, plates, errands, and polished little demands. But not yet. Tonight, the richest thing in the room is not the silver, the perfume, or the house itself. It is the ordinary mercy of being allowed to disappear into sleep without accessorizing it. And now, you can let the house grow quiet. You have spent this long, polished day inside the soft, complicated world of rich women in the 1960s, among heavy curtains, cautious breakfast plates, salon dryers, charge accounts, fitting room mirrors, club lunches, tennis whites, charity minutes, decorator samples, children's shoes, travel brochures, bridge cards, cocktail trays, dinner candles, and the small midnight mercy of cold cream at the dressing table. You have seen how comfort could be real and still come with rules. Money could bring help, space, beauty, travel, good doctors, fine clothes, and rooms warmed by lamps instead of worry. But it could not remove the pressure to be graceful, useful, attractive, calm, generous, organized, grateful, and never obviously tired from the work of seeming untroubled. There is tenderness in that, and a little absurdity too. A woman could have a silver coffee pot, a decorator, a country club table, and a closet full of dresses, yet still be quietly defeated by a seating chart, a hemline, a ringing telephone, or a canapé that had lost faith in itself. Still, the women inside that world were not foolish for caring. They were moving through the rules they had been handed, sometimes enjoying the sparkle, sometimes resisting the pressure, sometimes simply carrying the day with lipstick, patience, wit, and sore feet. From here, in your own room, You can feel grateful for modern comforts without feeling superior to the past. You can be grateful for softer clothes, freer choices, quieter expectations, imperfect houses, and the right to rest without making it look elegant. So, let the salon dryer fade. Let the club door close. Let the dinner candles go out. Let the telephone stay silent. The house is dark now. The mirror has stopped asking questions. The calendar can wait until morning. You are allowed to put the whole day down, breathe slowly, and drift gently into sleep. Good night.